nothing to prove. I can't speak soberly for you, but I got suspicion. Call my name, here come Plain Jane. She's insane, takes more pain than you've seen. Yeah. Stressful strain, take them rain, mill that cane. Yeah, ancient way, thoughts remain. She'll complain, yeah, understand. When you got nothing to lose, then you got something to prove. I can't speak soberly for you, but I got suspicion. When you got nothing to lose, then you got something to prove. I can't speak soberly for you, but I got suspicion. Last night I lost my patience with you. Too many tribulations. It's true, 'cause times will change. They don't remain the same. Point blank rain, I seen strain. It come down, frame. Who's to blame? Ain't got the time with suspicions on my mind. I ain't got the time with suspicions on my mind. I ain't got the time with suspicions on my mind. I ain't got the time with suspicions on my mind. Do you remember a trip when you took a small slip, fell down on your head, turned the earth to blood red, couldn't call for a ride, staggering, the horrors on your face were real. Every thought you think of comes out of your mouth. What's new? What's the deal? Where did they come from? Do you ever think what you don't say? Probably not that much. Probably not that much. Probably not this time. When you could think ahead, the special souls are dead. What's the world got in store? Could you talk some more? I don't care what you say, so tell me it's okay. I don't want to know, just don't think about it.
the devil. I am the Lord Satan from the netherworld, ruler of the damned and eternal king of hell. Even I, the master of deceit, can only stomach so much bullshit from the mainstream media and indie grifters. That's why I tune in to Morning Extra with Uncle Warren, because he eliminates my competition, and also because I know I'm gonna see that motherfucker soon.
Deo, Deo.
Baby's got a burger and a shooter and that shake is all go down. Baby's got a burger and a shooter and that shake is all go down. Corrosion to her thighs, erosion of her pride. Baby's got a shooter, baby's got corrosion now, corrosion now. Baby's got it.
Good morning. Good afternoon. I got the Conan O'Brien hair today. Yeah. Beep, whip. It's Friday. It's the second day of spring, if you didn't know that. Yesterday was the first day of spring. That's how math works. And yeah, it snowed here in Chicago right off the bat. But, you know, of course, being the weird weather that it is here, the snow is gone. So it's fine. It may be back. Who knows? Spring is a weird season, especially early spring. It's just like winter 2.0. It's kind of like it gets that last gas of winter out of the way, and then once you start getting to the middle of spring, it's like, oh wow, and you get 2 good weeks of beautiful weather, and then it just turns balls hot and humid and ass. Unless you live out in the desert, then it just turns balls hot and arid and melts tires. It's bright and sunny in North Carolina. If I can get my mouse to work there. Good morning, Willie. That's nice. That's nice. I know we had some rain the other day, and hold on a second. Okay. We had some rain the other day, then the day before yesterday, and then we had snow. So weird weather. Good morning, Kate. Good to see you. She says spring ain't quite sprung. It's dark and rainy here in the Pacific Northwest, but isn't it always dark and rainy in the Pacific Northwest? Isn't that kind of what you're known for up there? Just rain and just I don't mind rain, but you know, if it's a whole lot of it, that's probably not good. We got Global here. What's up, Global? Good to see you, my man. Steve Wolfbrandt. Hello to you too, good sir. We have who else in the house? Chuck's Intergalactic UFO Show, Intergalactic, and Miguel topping things off there with the peace sign. Good morning, my friend. And we got Jim over there on Rockfin holding it down. What's up, my man? Good morning to you, good sir. So Octo Spook on Rockfin put a little message in there. Said Trump/America has asked Israel to let America handle the Islamic Muslim terrorists in Yemen. That's according to the Jerusalem Post. So, yeah. We'll get into that here in just a second. So just want to remind you, our buddy Kevin over at Black Bear News, he is still needing your help, as he's kind of getting past getting his house burned down, and of course that's always not a fun thing. So if you can help him out, his information is down below in the description of this video. Also, he's doing his show on Substack. He's his Friday Substack. So if you want to check him out later, I believe it's 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. on the West Coast. On Substack, His link is down below as well. Subscribe to his Substack. I may try and do more stuff on Substack too. I have a Substack. I just don't really do much with it. It's enough fiddling with this other stuff, so it's a bit of a chore for me, but it may be something. Always good to have another outlet for people, especially if there's audience on there that's willing to watch it. So, yeah. So anyway, what else we got going on here? I think we're good to go. I guess we might as well go ahead and get started. We got a long show today, probably a little longer than usual. It was like once you pop, you can't stop. I kept coming and finding all these stories to share with you. And it's still probably not enough either. So I might as well get to it. Of course, the fuckery in the Middle East continues. As Israeli attacks kill 110 more Palestinians in Gaza, as IDF expands ground offensive. This is from Dave DeCamp over at antiwar.com. Be sure to check out antiwar.com and support them. The Libertarian Institute too. You don't necessarily have to agree with libertarian views, but they do provide good, solid journalism over there for you. Dave DeCamp and Kyle Anzalone and a few other folks there that do good work for both of these sites. So Israeli attacks continue to pound Gaza yesterday, killing at least 110 Palestinians since dawn. That's according to Al Jazeera, as the Israeli military is expanding its ground offensive in the besieged territory. Gaza's health ministry said earlier in the day that since Israel restarted its genocidal war on Tuesday, at least 506 Palestinians, including 200 children and 112 women, have been murdered, we should say, a total that doesn't account for all the deaths on Thursday. Another 909 people have been wounded, including 303 children and 205 women. The massive child casualties being reported by the health ministry align with accounts from healthcare workers treating patients in Gaza's hospital. Dr. Feroz Sidwa, an American trauma surgeon volunteering at a hospital in Khan Yunis, told antiwar.com that the morning Israel resumed its massive bombing campaign, he and other medical staff operated almost exclusively on women and children. So, yes, whenever you're talking to your normie friends who think that Israel is defending itself, just tell them they're murdering women and children. And just keep telling them that. You don't have to tell them anything else. Just tell them they're murdering women and children. Israeli strikes yesterday pounded targets across the strip, including residential buildings in Khan Yunis, where at least 20 Palestinians were killed. A 25-day-old baby was recovered from the rubble in Khan Yunis. Jesus Christ. After her family was killed. In Bayat Lahia, northern Gaza, at least 10 Palestinians were killed by Israeli strikes. Among the dead on Thursday was a newborn baby. It's a theme, folks. The Israeli military launched an invasion of Bayat Lahia as it hit the city with airstrikes. A day earlier, Israeli troops retook the Netzarim corridor, which separates northern Gaza from the rest of the strip. Later on Thursday, the IDF re-invaded the southern city of Rafah. Hamas said on Thursday that it fired a rocket barrage towards Tel Aviv in response to the Gaza slaughter, marking the group's first known attack since the ceasefire went into effect on January 19th, or at least it went into effect for Hamas. It sure as fuck didn't go into effect for Israel. The Israeli military said it intercepted one rocket and two others fell in open areas. No casualties were reported. On Wednesday, Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz made an explicit threat to the civilian population of Gaza because he's a worthless, cowardice piece of shit, warning they will face utter destruction and devastation if they don't free Israeli hostages and oust Hamas. The U.S. is strongly backing Israel's escalations in Gaza, which includes a total blockade on aid and all other goods entering the territory. Yeah. Hello. Can we get you to work today, please? Thank you. Meanwhile, Egypt has pipe dreams as it floats a new ceasefire proposal as Israel goes on its murder spree. Good morning, Amber, over there on the Facebooks. Good to see you, my friend. Good to see you. Good morning, my little pork chops. delicious pork chops. Egypt has made a last-ditch proposal to save the shattered ceasefire between Israel and Hamas as the Israeli military steps up its bombardment of Gaza. Egyptian sources told the New Arab's sister site Al Arabi Al Jadid. Egyptian officials are holding talks with Hamas and Israeli negotiators in Cairo about the new proposal, which comes just hours after Israel escalated its bombing campaign and launched a ground invasion to retake the Netzarim corridor in central Gaza. Over 700 Palestinians have been killed in 2 days of ferocious Israeli bombing. The Egyptian proposal aims to bridge the divisions between the two sides, which remain far apart on the timetable for the exchange of prisoners and permanently ending the war. That's an understatement, far apart. Israel and Hamas in January signed up to a multi-phase ceasefire and prisoner exchange agreement, which would see all Israeli captives released, Israeli forces fully withdraw from Gaza, and a permanent end to the war. Also, unicorns and Bigfoot will show up as well. Israel, however, refused to enter talks for the second stage of the truce, and the U.S. and Israel proposed instead to extend the first phase of the ceasefire. This was rejected by Hamas, which insists that Israel stick to the original agreement. Well, just like Trump, he's always going to renege on a deal, right? Israel restarted its brutal offensive shortly afterwards. A Hamas delegation is expected to arrive in Cairo, was expected to arrive there yesterday to discuss Egypt's proposal. This will follow a visit by an Israeli military delegation, which met with Egyptian intelligence chief Hassan Rashad on Wednesday evening. The Palestinian group confirmed that discussions about the ceasefire are ongoing and that it remains committed to implementing the original agreement reached in January. Talks are continuing with mediators to stop the aggression against our people and force the occupation to stick to the ceasefire agreement. Ooh, got a sneeze coming. Sorry. Did you hear that? You get a sneeze coming, it's like, psych. And then it gets you later. Hamas spokesman Abdel Latif al-Kanal wrote on his Telegram channel on Thursday morning. He called on Arab states to take urgent action to save our people from genocide, prevent starvation, and lift the siege. Hey, Alan, good to see you. Good morning. Good morning to you. Happy spring. Hamas sources reiterated to Al Arabi Al Jadid that the group is open to any proposal that includes a pathway to the second phase of the ceasefire that they agreed upon, and the release of Palestinian prisoners held in Israeli prisons. The report comes as the Egyptian and Qatari foreign ministers held talks on how to revive the ceasefire. The two diplomats held a phone call to discuss how to consolidate the ceasefire agreement and ensure the implementation of its 3 phases, as well as Egypt's post-war Gaza reconstruction plan. The Egyptian Foreign Ministry said in a statement yesterday morning. Qatar and Egypt, along with the U.S., are attempting to mediate an agreement between Hamas and Israel. Well, maybe Qatar and Egypt are, to permanently end the war. More than 700 Palestinians have been killed in indiscriminate bombardment of Gaza since Israel shattered the ceasefire on Tuesday. The Israeli military resumed its bombing campaign across the Strip on Tuesday, killing more than 400 Palestinians in a single day. And there are the numbers there that we just went over. Around 70% of the injured are women and children. Al-Dakran's comments come amid reports that more than 70 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli strikes Thursday morning. As we said, we don't have the total yet, or maybe the total's out now. Before Israel broke the ceasefire on Tuesday, the death toll from Israel's 15-month-long war on Gaza stood at over 61,700, with more than 112,000 wounded. The bodies of thousands of victims are trapped under rubble and remain uncounted. And then we told you about the manpower problems that they were having too. So, yeah, and I know people are saying, well, we told you it's going to be bad under Trump, that Trump was going to be worse. Well, yeah, we knew he was going to be worse. We knew he was going to be worse. But nobody picked Trump that knew he was going to be worse, right? I mean, you get stuck in this duopoly, and I don't care what you say. A third party wasn't going to do dick, all right? A third party was not, even if a third party even won the whole fucking thing, they were still going to be under the thumb of the oligarchy and the powers that really run the show. President don't run shit, right? He might as well just be a glove, right? Because he's got a hand up in him, doing the talkie. In Trump's case, they let Trump say his crazy shit so he can attract attention and whatnot. But when it comes to brass tacks, he's going to do what he's told, right? Because he's a fucking Zionist, just like the rest of these cocksuckers. Yemen is taking a hit as well from the U.S. As we said, according to the Jerusalem Post, that the U.S. said, no, don't worry about Yemen. We'll take care of Yemen. All right, you worry about your genocide up there. We'll take care of these fuckers, right? A third-party president could have stopped arming Israel. Maybe. Until he got the red dots on his forehead. Oh, come on. Of course they're going to override the veto. Most of Congress is bought off by AIPAC. Don't be silly. Come on. Meanwhile, more U.S. airstrikes hit Yemen as the Houthis fire missiles at Israel. The U.S. continued its daily bombing of Yemen yesterday as the Houthis fired more missiles at Israeli territory. Yemen's Saba news agency reported 4 airstrikes in the Hodeidah province, which is located on the Red Sea. It's unclear if there were any casualties in the latest U.S. strikes. A day earlier, U.S. strikes hit a residential area in the Yemeni capital, Sana'a, reportedly wounding 7 women and 2 children, because that's the M.O. Go for the women and children, right? The U.S. airstrikes were reported around the same time the Israeli military said that it intercepted a missile launch from Yemen, the second Houthi attack within a day. The Houthis, officially known as Ansar Allah, restarted missile attacks on Israel after the Israeli military resumed its massive bombing campaign on the Gaza Strip, massacring hundreds of Palestinians. According to the Israeli news site Ynet, or whatever the hell you call that shit, the U.S. has asked Israel not to respond to the Houthis' attacks and urged that Israel leave the response to the U.S. military. That's what we told you before. While U.S. officials have framed the bombing campaign in Yemen as a way to protect the U.S. military and American shipping, it was really launched in response to the Houthis saying they would reimpose its blockade on Israeli shipping over Israel imposing a total blockade on Gaza, a major violation of the ceasefire deal signed in January. The Houthis had ceased their attacks once the Gaza ceasefire went into effect on January 19th, and had not launched any until the U.S. restarted its bombing campaign on Saturday, March 15th. The first barrage of U.S. airstrikes killed 53 people in Yemen, including women and children. Since then, the Houthis have claimed several attacks on the U.S. aircraft carrier USS Harry Truman, which U.S. officials have downplayed, saying they were easily intercepted. President Trump is blaming the Houthis' attacks on Iran, even though U.S. officials have acknowledged that Ansar Allah acts independently and is unlikely to take orders from Tehran. The Houthis have said they would not dial down operations in response to U.S. military pressure or appeals from Iran. President Trump is threatening the Houthis with annihilation, but a year-long U.S. bombing campaign launched by President Fuckface a.k.a. Sleepy Joe, from January 2000, I think that's a typo, January 2024 to January 2025, did not stop the Houthis in a brutal U.S.-backed Saudi-led war on Yemen from 2015 to 2022, also failed to remove the group from power. Houthi military spokesman Yahya Saree said early Friday, that would be today, that the Yemeni attacks on Israel and the blockade on Israeli shipping won't stop until the aggression against Gaza stops and the blockade is lifted. He said the operations will not be halted no matter how long the American aggression continues. Love me some Yemenis, man. Those folks are just die-hard, crazy, good time, fuck you. I won't, it's like from the Rage Against the Machine song, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me. Good morning, Desert Mantis. Good to see you. Yes, good morning, campers. Rise and shine, wakey, wakey, eggs and bakey. Or turkey bakey, if you're not into the pork thing. And if you're not, shame on you. Crazy bastards. Meanwhile, Bibi, the neo-Nazi himself, has his own problems to deal with as Netanyahu faces fury as renewed war deepens Israeli divisions. And there's that guy. We can get rid of you. Thank you. Shithead and neo-Nazi Bibi Netanyahu face fury from protesters outside Israel's parliament, the Knesset, in Jerusalem a day after he resumed the war in Gaza, shattering the 2-month-old ceasefire with Hamas. On Highway 1, the main road connecting Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, protesters held a banner reading "The future of the coalition" or "The future of Israel." The banner underlined a message delivered by thousands of people to the Capitol on Wednesday that over nearly 18 months of war and fragile ceasefires, Netanyahu continues to prioritize his political survival over the security of his country, the lives of Israeli hostages, and those of Palestinians in Gaza. Again, that's not just him. It's the whole Zionist mantra. They're crazy. And, they're Hydra. It's basically Hydra. The anger in those accusations was palpable on Wednesday, just a day after Israel bombed Gaza, killing more than 400 people, injuring hundreds more, marking one of the war's deadliest days. The Israeli military said Wednesday that it had launched targeted ground activities in Gaza, that's in quotes, partially recapturing a key area in the territory. For Netanyahu, breaking the ceasefire has helped shore up his shaky coalition amid his ongoing corruption trial and ahead of a key vote on Israel's budget. The resumption of fighting won Netanyahu back the support of Itamar Ben-Gvir, his George Goebbels, the far-right minister who quit the government in protest against January's ceasefire deal. On Tuesday, shortly after the fresh bombardment of Gaza, his Jewish Power Party announced it would rejoin Netanyahu's coalition. That's the thing, is people say, well, why don't we just get rid of Netanyahu? There's worse people behind him. There's worse people. It's kind of like here. Well, we'll get rid of Biden. Well, you got Trump. Trump's worse than Biden on Israel, that's for sure. I mean, he wasn't, and Biden was not great at all on Israel. He was very terrible. But, Trump's doubling down. But for many Israelis, the renewed fighting has stirred feelings of despair and rage with the government. For Palestinians, it means the end of a brief respite that lasted just 2 months. Plus, restarting the war doesn't align with what many Israelis want. According to recent polling from the Jerusalem-based think tank, the Israeli Democracy Institute, who said in early March that the vast majority of Israelis supported the ceasefire. Over 70% of Israelis supported negotiating with Hamas for an end to the fighting and an Israeli withdrawal from Gaza in exchange for the release of the remaining hostages, the Institute said. Notably, a large proportion, 61.5% of voters from Netanyahu's Likud party supported continuing the second stage of the ceasefire deal. Now, as Netanyahu digs in his heels with the renewed campaign, many worry about how an already fractured society will fare. Protesting alongside thousands outside the Knesset, Yuval Yari, an artist from Jerusalem and former director of an art school, told CNN he believed the fighting had been restarted for political reasons, saying Netanyahu needed his right-wing allies on side ahead of the March 31st budget vote deadline, and said the war was corrosive of Israelis' democracy. Yeah. Not to mention the moral decay that's going on there that may be irreversible. So, I mean, I don't see the Israelis just saying, at any point going, oh wow, we were so wrong. We should change our ways and embrace the Palestinians and give them back to, and then they're not gonna do that fucking shit. John, what's up? Good morning, my friend. Hope you enjoyed our brief snow yesterday. That was nice. Kenny, good to see you, my man. Hope everything's good. So yeah, that's why we don't play favorites around here on the show. The Democrats, Republicans, they're all shit, right? And half the shit that Trump's doing is getting turned away by the courts, and now the judges that are blocking some of his bullshit are getting threatened. It's some crazy shit. Kenny says, I recently attended a Shabbat dinner panel with the Israeli refuseniks, Tal Mitnick, and another girl whose name escapes me at the moment. Right? And again, do we have to get the Bart Simpson chalkboard out where it says, not all Zionists are Jews. Not all Jews are Zionists. You know, you have your regular ass Jews, your Rajas, and then you have your Zionist piece of shit, you know, trying to take over the world motherfuckers. Right? There's those people. And you know, we've been saying, a lot of us have been saying, well, why doesn't, you know, some of these Arab states do more to try and help Palestine, you know? Why isn't Iran trying to do more? Or are they playing politics? Well, the Palestinians have that question too, as Palestinians say Arabs not doing enough to help devastated Gaza, according to a poll. More than 2/3 of Palestinians do not believe that Arab and Islamic countries are doing enough to protect people in Gaza from Israel's onslaught, according to new polling. The survey conducted by the Palestinian Center for Public Opinion, the PCPO, polled 1,500 Palestinians living in Gaza and the occupied West Bank between March 5th to March 15th about recent developments in the conflict. The results indicate widespread disappointment with the Arab world's response to Israel's destruction of Gaza. Finger man, finger man, finger man. Good to see you, brother, man. Good to see you. Good to see you. Frustration is particularly high in Gaza, where almost 3/4 of respondents said that the Arab response has been inadequate, while 2/3 of people in the West Bank said the same. Historically, Palestinians have looked to Arab and Islamic nations for political, diplomatic, and material support. However, there is a perception that many of these countries have prioritized geopolitical interests and diplomatic relations over steadfast backing for Palestinian rights. Nabil Koukali, president and founder of the PCPO, told the New York Arab. He ain't wrong. He ain't wrong. Well, we have to handle this delicately. People getting fucking murdered, to be babies shot in the head. What are you fucking delicate? The normalization of relations between several Arab states and Israel has contributed significantly to this mistrust. Many Palestinians view these agreements as a sign that their struggle is being sidelined in favor of economic and strategic interests. The survey also revealed widespread fears that the U.S. and Israel will move to forcibly displace Gaza's 2.2 million residents. 3/4 of people in Gaza and more than half in the West Bank expressed concerns about U.S. President shithead fuckface McGee's proposal to take over Gaza and rebuild it as a luxury tourist destination. To put that into perspective, with 2.2 million residents, I believe the state of Mississippi has around 2.2 million people, probably more now. But imagine just displacing a whole state of people and trying to send them somewhere else. Trump in February announced that the U.S. would look to occupy the Gaza Strip after the war and permanently expel the population to construct what he called the Riviera of the Middle East. The president has since downplayed his threat to deport the Palestinians, through recent reports suggest that the U.S. and Israel have been in talks with several African countries about taking in displaced Gazans. Israel lauded Trump's proposal and set about preparing for what it calls the voluntary migration of Palestinians from Gaza before resuming its brutal assault on the territory in Tuesday. The proposal was met with backlash across the Arab world, which has endorsed a rival plan drawn up by Egypt, which provides a roadmap for Gaza's reconstruction that doesn't involve displacing the population. But that's the whole point. They want to get rid of the people. Israel's not going to agree to anything where people get to stay in Gaza. Egypt, together with Jordan, has rebuffed pressure from the Trump administration to resettle Palestinians from Gaza. The poll also reveals sharply divergent views on Hamas and the Palestinian Authority between people living in Gaza and the occupied West Bank. More than 60% of people in Gaza voiced support for transferring power to the Palestinian Authority, an idea supported by just 1/4 of people in the West Bank, where the PA is highly unpopular. Regarding Hamas, less than a fifth of respondents in Gaza said they consider the group to represent Palestinian resistance. Probably out of fear. They're probably saying that. Its popularity is higher in the occupied West Bank, where nearly half of people voiced their support for the group. So there you go. And there's that person waving hi. I don't know what that's about. Yeah. So... But that's right. It's totally correct. It's all political why they're not getting more help from their Arab pals, right? So we all know, like I said, we knew Trump was going to be worse with Israel. Some people were trying to, some people like Scott Ritter were trying to say that, oh, he's trying to bring peace. He's trying to bring calling people like Elon Musk revolutionaries. I'm like, come on, dude. You got to quit. Today's a good day to stop sniffing glue. Okay. Meanwhile, the White House says Trump fully supports Israel's Gaza slaughter. White House press secretary and yard gnome Caroline Leavitt yesterday said that President Trump fully supports Israel's renewed massive bombing campaign in Gaza, which has killed at least 200 children since Tuesday. The president made it very clear to Hamas that if they did not release all the hostages, it's all about there would be all hell to pay. Unfortunately, Hamas chose to play games in the media with lives. The dumb bitch told reporters. U.S. and Israel are blaming Hamas for the lack of a continued ceasefire, which is funny. Not funny, haha, but just funny, like, really? And hostage releases. But it was Israel that repeatedly violated the deal signed in January, which would have led to the release of all Israeli captives, a permanent truce, and Israeli withdrawal from Gaza. Look at that. He's sitting there like, you'll know this. Why are your lips not on my cock? Why are your lips not on my cock? Hey, I'm ready. Maybe I'll stroke you first and then I'll give you a nice blowjob. Leavitt said that President Trump fully supports Israel and the IDF and the actions that they've taken in recent days. On Wednesday, the State Department also affirmed the administration's unconditional support for Israel. State Department spokeswoman Tammy Bruce said that the U.S. will stand with Israel in every circumstance. Asked about the massive child casualties in the Israeli bombing, Bruce pinned the blame on Hamas, of course. Such a shame that Hamas has allowed this to occur, but look nowhere else other than the people who have facilitated the suffering from the beginning, Tammy said. Tammy. Fucking. Bruce claimed that the administration wants peace. What? But President Trump has emboldened Netanyahu and his government by supplying huge amounts of military aid and repeatedly calling for the permanent expulsion of his Palestinians from Gaza instead of pressuring Israel to implement the deal it signed in January, because you know that shit's not going to happen, because Trumpy is bought and paid for. So yeah, and more from that as the U.S. ultimatum to Lebanon: negotiate or we'll back further Israeli escalation. U.S. Deputy Envoy to the Middle East Morgan Ortagus has delivered an ultimatum to the Lebanese government demanding that they form committees to participate in direct negotiations with Israel by month's end or face an escalation of U.S.-backed Israeli attacks on Lebanese territory. The negotiations were announced a little over a week ago, and Lebanon has said no direct talks were happening. Israel has expressed hope that these talks would ultimately give way to normalization of Israel-Lebanon relations. The U.S. wants direct Lebanon participation and wants 3 committees specifically on the issues of the active Israeli occupation of 5 military outposts inside Lebanon, the border itself, and the potential Israeli release of Lebanese prisoners. That's Morgan Ortagus right there. In case you gave a shit. Since Israeli DM Israel Katz has promised Israel will continue to occupy those outposts irrespective of how the negotiations go, Lebanon has seen little interest in participating. Israel released a handful of prisoners when the U.S. first announced the talks as a sign of goodwill. Yeah. The U.S. administration clearly wants to present these talks as a big diplomatic win in the region, but the threat of giving Israel permission to escalate military attacks against Lebanon probably doesn't mean much, since the U.S. has already given Israel a free hand to attack Lebanon throughout the ceasefire, which began in late November, and Israel has carried out hundreds of attacks during that period. The U.S. also threatened to withdraw from the Oversight Committee overseeing the ceasefire, which again would mean little, since they've effectively done nothing to enforce the ceasefire in the face of over 1,000 Israeli violations. Of course, they're not going to do anything. Some groups in Lebanon have expressed hopes that the negotiations would lead to less military bellicosity from Israel. Others, that's a nice word there, bellicosity. Let's look that up later. Others, though, have expressed skepticism, and many believe that amid the active military issues with Israel, talks extending outside those issues are premature. The U.S. has not publicly addressed this ultimatum, though Special Envoy Steve Witkoff said other media reports about discussions with Lebanese officials were baseless and that the U.S. trusts Lebanon to make its own decisions. Unconfirmed reports are that Lebanon's President Aoun is considering adding civilian experts to some of the existing committees, hoping that would be a way to satisfy the U.S. and be seen as partly complying with demands while not fully giving in. I think the only way to satisfy the U.S. at this point is if everybody died, because I think that's what they want. So, hello. What is this? No thanks. There you go. Meanwhile, Google is, you've heard of Google. The googly, not googly eyeballs, not Google, not these. The eyeballs. I turn the eyeballs around for the secret show. I try to keep, he likes to look at me during the serious show. I look down and he calms me down. Okay, I'm going to breathe. So this is from the Gray Zone. We rarely do the Gray Zone on here, but this one, I think they got it from somebody else. As Google imports ex-Israeli spies as genocide resumes. Dun, dun, dun. Look at Google with the blood splatter. This is from Do Not Panic, I think. The article was originally published by Do Not Panic, so it's a little bit of lengthy, but I think it's worth it. On March 18th, that would be Wednesday or Tuesday, I believe. Google bought Israeli cybersecurity company Wiz, giggity, for 32 billion smackaroonies. The acquisition will mark the single largest transfer of former Israeli spies into an American company. This is because Wiz is run and staffed by dozens of ex-Unit 8200 members, the specialist cyber spying arm of the IDF. Unit 8200 wrote the programming and designed the algorithms that automated the genocide of Gaza and was also responsible for the pager attack in Lebanon. Now the men and women who helped design the architecture of apartheid are being swallowed by the U.S. tech surveillance complex. The identity of the Wiz founders, all former Unit 8200, is fairly well documented by Israeli media at least. One of the founders, Ami Lutwak, boasts on his LinkedIn profile that he led a mission-critical R&D team for Unit 8200, which won them the Israel Defense Award in 2012. Or in 2012. What did I say? 2012? That's not a number. I'm thinking 11 Z's from the Lord of the Rings. 2012, I should say. Excuse me. Okay. Less well documented, however, is the fact that a huge chunk of the Wiz workforce, from office managers to software engineers to product analysts, are also former Unit 8200s. The whole fucking thing is pretty much Israeli spies. Following investigations earlier this year into the former Unit 8200 members working in key AI positions for tech companies, the reporters identified nearly 50 Wiz employees as being ex-8200 operatives. And here's employees right there. I'll take a screenshot there or whatever. It's also worth noting that the Wiz deal represents a huge tax coup for Israel. It'll bring around $5 billion in revenue for the war economy, or around 0.6% of Israel's entire GDP. Zionists have already expressed the benefits in terms of the warplanes and missiles it will pay for to conduct genocide. This is Eli Albrecht. The sale of Wiz to Google made the Israeli government 25 F-35s. Order paid for February 2025, and they have $2 billion left over for some JDAMs and Hellfires. Hellfire is going to come into play later, I think, once some of these folks pass away. The valuation is curious. A huge 64 times multiple of Wiz's most recent annual sales. As someone noted, you could buy Delta Airlines or Brazil's oil company Petrobras for this money and have change left over. The overpriced valuation is likely as much about politics as economics. Google is heavily invested in Israel. It opened offices there nearly 20 years ago, has bought a number of Israeli startup tech companies in recent years, and former CEO Eric Schmidt has cozied up to Netanyahu on numerous occasions over the years. All the key figures at Google and its mother company Alphabet are proud Zionists, from Schmidt to current CEO Sundar Pichai, to founder Sergey Brin, to Anat Ashkenazi, the chief financial officer of Alphabet. At a time when Israel's economy is faltering, the country is experiencing an outflow of people. The IDF can't win in Gaza, and Netanyahu is in deep trouble. The Wiz deal provides a much-needed tonic. It helps paper over the economic and political cracks in the country and acts as a vote of confidence in Israel's early-stage technology sector, the only sector of the Israeli economy that produces anything of note. Because I think the rest of their economy is tourism and murdering children. Without the Unit 8200 to tech startup pipeline, Israel's economy would be screwed. The Wiz deal then looks like a favor from Google to Netanyahu. It keeps a critical business sector for Israel ticking over and provides a reassuring sense of business as usual in a blood-soaked land. The day before the Wiz deal, Israel resumed its genocide of Gaza with an unhinged, bloodthirsty rampage, the deadliest 24 hours in the last nearly 18 months of genocide. A high bar has been set, and it was cleared. They attacked at night, itself an act of utter cowardice and sadism, and slaughtered hundreds as they slept in tents. Close to 100 babies and young children were killed. The overall death toll exceeds 400 and is rising. That was of the 18th. As expected, there's not a flicker of condemnation from world leaders, many of whom are arming Israel with the weapons and intelligence it needs for genocide. The British Air Force spent the ceasefire period gathering intelligence on Palestinians and feeding it to Israel so they could restart the mass murder efficiently. The genocide is the end of the West. It destroys any claim to moral superiority over Russia, China, Iran, or any of the officially designated bad guys. To hear Western politicians screech about these appointed enemies while overseeing genocide is not just an insult to our intelligence, it's an appeal to our supremacy, to our white colonial supremacy, to our racism. They are betting that they can carry out genocide because we don't really care about brown Muslims. They're betting we don't care about the obvious hypocrisy of supporting Israel while demonizing countries that aren't mass murdering civilians. They think they can get away with arming a population on one hand, in the case of Ukraine, and exterminating them on the other in Gaza because Ukrainians are white, deserving victims, and Palestinians are brown, subhuman scum who deserve no sympathy. Victim status is socially constructed by the Western media at the time. We rarely hear about black or brown boys and girls who are murdered or go missing, but we'll always hear about white boys and girls who suffer the same fate. Some victims are legitimate and ideal. Some are illegitimate. In the case of Gaza and Ukraine, Western political and media elites have just extrapolated this to the population level. The baked-in assumption they are working from is that most people are basically racist and hypocrisy doesn't move the dial. They're betting the propaganda we've been fed since childhood about valiant Israel and the evils of our designated enemies has worked, which it has up until the advent of cell phones that can basically show you genocide anywhere around the world at any given moment. The genocide should help us shed our collective naivety about what the West is, what it stands for, what it's founded on, which is to say slavery, white supremacy, greed, exploitation, and unfathomable levels of death. Millions and millions and millions of people from India to Africa to South Africa. The colonization of South America killed so many people it changed the global climate. Having been depopulated by invaders, once thriving cities that were home to millions of people were reclaimed by trees and vegetation on a massive scale, drawing down carbon dioxide and cooling the world. And now today, we get to see depopulated cities and mass death live streamed, for that is progress. We get to see the barbarity of Western colonialism in glorious action. Nothing should ever be the same again. If the genocide of Gaza hasn't radicalized you, I don't know if you can claim to be in touch with your basic humanity. If it hasn't informed you about the true nature of Western systems, then you simply do not want to be informed. The UK is moving ahead with large welfare cuts for disabled people, including those with cancer. On TV the other day, the UK's Health Secretary Wes Streeting said that people with cancer should be in work, not at home resting. Alongside this, the government has said that to cut youth employment, it will push young people to join the army. This, of course, is the context of massive expenditure on military weapons in the face of the Russian boogeyman. Okay, I think this is going into another story, but I don't usually do like the opinion pieces on here, but I read this and I was like, yeah, I mean, this has to be said. I mean, we continue to say it here, and others say it as well, but how can we just sit here and watch shit happen like that? You know? Prop the forehead. Listen, okay, that joke was like funny the first 80 times you told it. If you're gonna do comedy in the chat, it needs to be funny, okay? So you need to get a new bit, all right? Seriously. I'm just saying that so you know, because at this point you sound like you have special needs, all right? New jokes. Okay, there's more than just a forehead here to work with. Meanwhile, we worried about what's going on in Syria, right? The Syria, of course, is just being pulled apart by everybody. But Papa Putin is stepping in as Putin vows to support Syria's de facto government, calls for practical cooperation. It's not calling Papa Putin. That's not a term of endearment. That just means he's sticking his nose in there. Russian President Vladimir Putin has sent a message to Syrian transitional President Ahmad al-Shara offering support to help achieve stability in Syria and calling for practical cooperation between the two countries, Moscow announced yesterday. Putin sent a letter to Syrian President al-Shara expressing his support for efforts to quickly stabilize the situation in the country in the interests of ensuring its sovereignty, independence, unity, and territorial integrity, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said. Russia affirmed its continued readiness to develop practical cooperation with the Syrian leadership across the full range of issues on the bilateral agenda in order to strengthen traditional friendly Russian-Syrian relations, Peskov added. Putin had spoken to Shara on the phone in mid-February, offering his nation's support in safeguarding Syria's sovereignty and territorial integrity. Moscow supported former President Bashar al-Assad and his administration against Turkish, Western, and Gulf-backed extremist groups during the 14-year war against Syria. Among those groups was HTS, the ex-Al-Qaeda branch that led the formation of the new Syrian government headed by Shara, who was a former member of ISIS in its early days and went by the nom de guerre Abu Muhammad al-Jilani. He had a little symbol for his name, too. Since Assad's government collapsed, Moscow has been negotiating with the new government regarding the fate of its two main military bases in Syria. Syrian authorities have signaled that Damascus is open to allowing Russia to maintain its air and naval bases along the Mediterranean coast, provided that any agreement with the Kremlin aligns with the country's interests. According to the Wall Street Journal, a report last month, talks between Moscow and Damascus included the possibility of billions of dollars in Russian investment in Syria. Moscow has recently supplied the country with fresh currency shipments in line with an agreement made with the former government. Peskov's comments come weeks after Syrian government forces massacred thousands of Alawite civilians on the country's coast, while quelling an armed uprising launched by elements affiliated with the former military. the Syrian Arab Army. Around 13,000 Syrians, mainly Alawites, have fled to Lebanon in fear. As a result, thousands of others sought refuge in the Russian Hmeimim air base in the city of Latakia. Putin's message to Shura also comes as the Israeli army has continued to expand an illegal occupation of southern Syria and launched a campaign of airstrikes on military infrastructure across the city. Meanwhile, Ukraine and Russia will hold talks with U.S. officials in Saudi Arabia next week. I don't think they're going to be together in the same room, but they will be talking. There's Voldemort there with his coke dealer. He goes, "Your hair looks like cocaine. Can I sniff your hair?" No, it's just gray hair, dude. Get the fuck off me. That's what he looks like he's doing, like he's pushing him away. Talks on a United States proposal for a partial ceasefire in Ukraine are set to resume Monday in Saudi Arabia. Ukrainian and Russian officials have confirmed. Speaking at a news conference in Oslo on Thursday, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said the structure of the meeting scheduled for Monday would see U.S. officials meeting with Ukrainian experts and then holding separate talks with Russian representatives. There will be a meeting of Ukraine and America and then some shuttle democracy, as our American colleague said, America with Russia, he told reporters after a meeting with Norwegian Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Store. I've been to that store. It's their prices are pretty high. Yuri Ushakov, a top foreign policy aide to President Vladimir Putin, confirmed that bilateral talks between Russian and U.S. officials would be taking place on Monday in Riyadh, adding they would focus on the safety of shipping in the Black Sea. Russia will be represented by Grigory Karasin, I think that's maybe how you say it, a former diplomat who now chairs the Federal Council Committee on Foreign Affairs, and Sergei Beseda, an advisor to the director of the Federal Security Service, the FSB. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said when Putin and U.S. President shithead, fuckhead, orange dude spoke by telephone on Tuesday, they had discussed the Black Sea Initiative. Following the call, the White House had issued a statement saying the leaders agreed to technical negotiations on the implementation of a maritime ceasefire in the Black Sea, a full ceasefire, and permanent truce. Okay, so there you go. So they'll be talking. What they'll be doing will be two different things. Bring your oligarch to work day. Zelensky's like 4 feet tall. He is. He's tiny. He's a bit of a wee one. So meanwhile, in Sudan, as we shift our focus to Africa, so the Sudan army within 500 meters of the presidential palace, according to a military source. Things getting wild over there. Troops of Sudan's regular army advanced on Thursday to within 500 meters of the presidential palace seized by paramilitaries nearly 2 years ago, a military source said on Thursday. During their advance in central Khartoum, troops destroyed a rapid support forces convoy of 30 vehicles attempting to withdraw southward, the source told news agency AFP, speaking on condition of anonymity because he didn't want to get murdered or because he's not authorized to speak to the media. The fighting around the presidential palace comes amid a major offensive by the army to retake areas of greater Khartoum they lost to the RSF in the early stages of the war, which broke out in April 2023. On Monday, soldiers advancing from the south converged with troops already in the city center, putting further pressure on paramilitaries. According to AFP, explosions were and gunfire across the city as the fighting intensified. Explosions and gunfire were reported across the city as the fighting intensified. The battle for power between Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and his former deputy, RSF Commander Mohammed Hamdan Daglo, has claimed tens of thousands of lives and uprooted more than 12 million people from their homes. In greater Khartoum alone, at least 3.5 million people, more than half of the pre-war population, have fled their homes. The conflict has split the country in two, with the army controlling the north and east, while the RSF holds sway over much of the west and south. In recent weeks, the army has retaken Khartoum North, across the Blue Nile from the capital, as well as East Nile District to its east. In Khartoum and its sister city of Omdurman across the White Nile, the RSF still holds several positions in the south. So there's that guy again. Quit waving at me. I'm not your friend. So that's going on in that part of Africa. Meanwhile, in Somalia, which was remember the Somali pirates, right? Now I am the captain. U.S. launches airstrikes in Somalia, claims al-Shabaab fighters killed. The U.S. launched an airstrike in Somalia on March 15th, targeting al-Shabaab. U.S. Africa Command said in a press release on Monday. AFRICOM said the strike occurred 150 kilometers northeast of Mogadishu in support of the U.S.-backed Mogadishu-based government and described it as a collective self-defense strike, even though no U.S. troops were involved in fighting on the ground. AFRICOM claimed that its initial assessment found that enemy combatants were killed and that no civilians were injured or killed, although the Pentagon is notorious for hiding civilian casualties in Somalia and elsewhere. The attack marks the second known U.S. airstrike in Somalia this month. The last attack occurred on March 1st, and AFRICOM conducted several airstrikes in Somalia in February, targeting ISIS in the northeastern Puntland region and al-Shabaab in central Somalia. Al-Shabaab has been on the offensive, and the U.S.-backed government has also said it has been receiving air support from the UAE and Ethiopia. The federal government claimed that 50 al-Shabaab militants were killed by airstrikes on March 12th after the militant group laid siege to a hotel in the central town of Beledweyne. Beledweyne, that cool, refreshing drink. Middle East Eye reported this week that Abdul Qadir Mohammed Nur, Somalia's defense minister, was fired on Sunday due to U.S. pressure. U.S. officials were reportedly unhappy with his coordination with Turkey and Ankara's deepening involvement in the country. The report said the U.S. pressured the government to fire Nur by threatening to reconsider military support for Mogadishu. That's how they do it. It's called extortion, folks. The recent U.S. airstrikes in Somalia came after President Trump eased restrictions on U.S. airstrikes and special operation raids outside conventional battlefields. U.S. officials said at the time that the step was taken with al-Shabaab in mind. The U.S. military hypes the threat of al-Shabaab due to its size and al-Qaeda affiliation, but it's widely believed the group does not have ambitions outside of Somalia. Al-Shabaab was born out of a U.S.-backed Ethiopian invasion in 2006 that toppled the Islamic Courts Union, a coalition of Muslim groups who briefly held power in Mogadishu after ousting CIA-backed warlords. Al-Shabaab was the radical offshoot of the Islamic Courts Union. The group's first recorded attack was in 2007, and it wasn't until 2012 that Al-Shabaab pledged loyalty to al-Qaeda after years of fighting the U.S. and its proxies. So that's from Dave DeCamp over there at antiwar.com. A lot of their stories today. So, quit it. So the one thing you want in a democracy is to make sure that your military is a big part of it, right? Indonesia passes law allowing greater military role in the government. This is the disconnect between the government and the people. Activists in world's third largest democracy warn that changes to the law could signal a return to military rule. Indonesia's parliament has ratified a contentious law allowing members of the military to hold more government roles, despite criticisms that it could expand the armed forces' role in civilian affairs, because that's how it happens. Thursday's revision to the armed forces law pushed by President Prabowo Subianto's coalition is aimed at expanding the military's remit in a country long influenced by its powerful armed forces. The amendments have been criticized by civil society groups who say they could return Indonesia to the Draconia era of former President Suharto, when military officers dominated civilian affairs. You know, people don't learn from the fucking past, man. Rights groups have criticized moves to boost military involvement in public affairs because they fear it could lead to abuse of power, human rights violations, and political impunity for Army personnel. Protesters from several democracy groups have said they will stage demonstrations in Jakarta, Indonesia's capital. On Wednesday evening, a handful of students camped at the back gate of the parliamentary building to protest the law. They were later dismissed. President Subianto, who took office last October and was a special forces commander under Suharto, has been expanding the armed forces role into what were considered civilian areas, including his flagship program of free meals for children. Defense Minister Sijaj Jeffrey, not going to work here anymore, said the amendment was necessary because geopolitical changes in global military technology require the military to transform to face conventional and non-conventional conflicts. Under the previous version of the military law, officers could serve in up to 10 government agencies. The revised law now permits military officers to serve in 14 state institutions. In addition to broadening the scope of civilian posts that officers can hold, including the Attorney General's office, the State Secretariat, and Counterterrorism Agency, the new law also extends sitting officers' retirement age. President Prabowo appears intent on restoring the Indonesian military's role in civilian affairs, which were long characterized by widespread abuses and impunity. Andreas Harsono, senior Indonesia researcher at Human Rights Watch, said in a statement, the government's rush to adopt these amendments undercuts its express commitment to human rights and accountability. It said, where the government was replied, no shit, Sherlock. Of course, that's what we want. Remember this guy? Man, what are they going to do with him? South Korea Constitutional Court to rule on Prime Minister Han. Impeachment on March 24th. Is this guy impeached or what? Come on. Right? Come on. We was talking about this like 3 months ago. South Korea's Constitutional Court said yesterday it will deliver a decision on Prime Minister Han Duck-soo's impeachment on March 24th, that would be Monday, I believe, after he was suspended as acting president last year. The ruling on whether to oust Han or restore his position will be carefully watched as it comes ahead of a highly anticipated impeachment ruling by the same court on suspended President Yoon Suk Yeol. The Constitutional Court has yet to announce a date for its ruling on whether to uphold Yoon's impeachment or restore his presidential powers. Han was impeached as acting president by South Korea's parliament more than 2 months ago amid the country's worst political turmoil in decades. Han took over as acting leader from President Yoon, who himself was impeached. They just keep him coming. You put a president in there, we're going to impeach him. Who himself was impeached over his short-lived declaration of martial law last year. Han had been in the position of acting president less than 2 weeks and was impeached on December 27th after clashing with the opposition-led parliament by refusing to appoint 3 more justices to the Constitutional Court. Finance Minister Choi Sang-mok assumed the position of acting president while the cases of Yoon and Han were considered by the Constitutional Court. They tried to impeach him, but he said, no, I had my fingers crossed when I said all that shit, so you can't impeach me. And they're like, you're right. We don't know what we were thinking. Over here in Canada, our neighbors to the north there, they got that new prime minister there, and apparently he's a crazy guy. Look at him, he's a skater. I love how the AP couches this. Carney plans to trigger an early election in Canada as he shows off skating skills with an NHL team. Look at me, I haven't folded on my ass yet, eh? It's all that poutine I ate. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney will trigger an early election this weekend for an expected vote on April 28th, the government official said Thursday, against the backdrop of a trade war and sovereignty threats from the widow Adelstein's fuckboy. Carney will go to Governor General Mary Simon on Sunday and request to dissolve Parliament, said the official who wasn't authorized to publicly give details and spoke on condition and anonymity. Simon's office holds a constitutional ceremonial role as the representative of Canada's head of state, King Charles III. The campaign for the election, which is due by October but can be called at any time before then by a prime minister, will then officially begin. The prime minister said the convention in Canada is that the governor general will know first whether an election will be called. In this time of crisis, the government needs a strong and clear mandate, Carney said in Edmonton, Alberta, as he was drinking a Molson. Carney earlier joined the Edmonton Oilers hockey team on the ice for whatever, some bullshit. Any more of this? The former two-time central banker was sworn in as Canada's new prime minister on Friday. Carney replaced Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who announced his resignation in January but remained in power until the Liberal Party elected a new leader. The governing Liberals had appeared poised for a historic election defeat this year until Dump declared a trade war. He has repeatedly said that Canada should become the 51st state. Dump's economic war and annexation threats have infuriated Canadians who are booing the American anthem at NHL and NBA games. Nice. Many are canceling trips south of the border and avoid buying American goods when they can. Well, it's spring is here now, so, no real reason to come down here anyway. The surge in Canadian nationalism has bolstered Liberal poll numbers. This is a stunning reversal related directly to what is widely known in Canada as the Trump effect, said Daniel Balin, a political science professor at McGill University in Montreal. Carney hasn't had a phone call yet with Trump since being sworn in. He said that he's ready to meet with Trump if he shows respect for Canadian sovereignty. Whoa, baby, nobody called you. Yeah, he shows respect. Trump shows no respect for anybody. Carney was the head of the Bank of Canada during the 2008 financial crisis. In 2013, he became the first non-citizen of the UK to run the Bank of England, helping to manage the impact of Brexit. A former Goldman Sachs executive with no experience in politics, Carney has said that protecting Canadian workers and their families in the face of unjustified trade actions and growing the economy will be his top priority, along with moose breeding. The Conservatives and their leader, Pierre, were heading for a huge victory in the federal election this year until Trudeau resigned and Trump was sworn in and escalated his near-daily attacks on Canada's economy and sovereignty. 45 for years, the party's go-to attack dog is a firebrand populist who says he will put Canada first. He is a career politician who attacks the mainstream media and vows to defund Canada's public broadcaster. National Campaign Director Jenny Byrne said this week they will not be allowing media on board election campaign buses and planes. Vows to cut taxes and get resource projects in a resource-rich country approved sooner. We will stand up to the Americans and stand up for ourselves, he said, with a jug of maple syrup in his hand. The opposition Conservatives hope to make the election about Trudeau, whose popularity declined as food and housing prices rose and immigration surged. But after decades of bilateral stability, the vote is now expected to focus on who is best equipped to deal with the U.S. Dump put 25% tariffs on Canada's steel and aluminum and is threatening sweeping tariffs on all Canadian products from April 2nd. Carney said the U.S. putting a 10% tariff on Alberta oil exports to the U.S. serves no purpose other than to raise the prices to U.S. consumers. Well, he ain't wrong there. Trump acknowledged that he is tougher on Canada than he is on some American adversaries, telling Fox News that it's only because it's meant to be our 51st state. Oh, for fuck's sakes. Trump also said that he didn't care that his trade war with Canada was boosting the Liberal Party. Carney met with the leaders of the UK and France on his first official overseas trip, seeking support from two of Ottawa's oldest allies. Canada is in discussions with the European Union to join an EU drive to break its security dependency on the U.S., with a focus on buying more defense equipment, including fighter jets in Europe, and rocket-propelled moose. The plan includes potentially building Saab Gripen fighter jets in Canada. Carney is reviewing the remaining purchase orders of U.S. F-35 fighter jets to see if there are other options given the changing environment. Oh, Canada, your shit's all fucked up now. And speaking of which, as they talk about talking to the EU, so Canada, as we said, is in discussions to join an EU drive to break its security dependency. The official who was too chicken shit to give their names said the plan includes building fighter jets in Canada. So yeah, I think that's all. I think that may have been, yeah. So that's basically all they're saying here. Okay, this is very serious. We've been in talks to work on defense procurement together. Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly told the CBC there, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation A. I went to Europe a month ago to make sure we could be part of that partnership. It's yielding toward good news. Joly said Canada is over-reliant on the U.S. for defense procurement. The defense industry here at home needs to be built. We need to work on our own defense industry, and we need to find different partners around the world. Canada's contract with U.S. military contractor Lockheed Martin's F-35 remains in place, but Ottawa only made a legal commitment of funds for the first 16 aircraft. Canada agreed to buy 88 F-35s 2 years ago, but that might not happen now. Carney met with French President Emmanuel Macron in Paris and the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer in London on Monday, his first trip since being sworn in on Friday. On Wednesday, the EU's executive branch unveiled its Readiness 2030 security strategy, urging member states to buy much of their military equipment in Europe, mostly with European suppliers, in some cases with EU help, to cut prices and speed up orders. They should only purchase equipment from abroad. Giggity. Why can't they buy it from a man? I think the purchase. You say because of abroad. All right. When cost, performance, or supply delays make it preferable. In recent years, the 27-nation bloc has placed about 2/3 of their orders with U.S. defense companies to qualify for new loans. EU nations would have to buy at least 65% of equipment from suppliers in the EU, Norway, and Ukraine. The Swedish-made Saab Gripen is used by the militaries of Sweden, the Czech Republic, where, again, in the Czech Republic, they don't take cash, Hungary, South Africa, Brazil, and Thailand, because in Thailand, you neither win nor lose. The puns keep coming. They won't stop. Last month, the Trump administration signaled that Europeans would have to fend for themselves in Ukraine in the future. France has pushed the Buy European approach. On Tuesday, Carney announced a $4.2 billion radar purchase from Australia during a visit to Canada's far north. The 4 kangaroos were thrown in to sweeten the deal. A senior Canadian government official said the Australian radar system will consist of a series of pillars almost a mile in length. That's a long pillar. The official, who spoke on condition of anonymity, as they were not, said they could say how they couldn't say how the Australian purchase would be received politically by Washington, but said it is welcomed by American military officials, probably because somewhere in the mix, the U.S. has got their dirty mitts in there. Looking at our own military, a U.S. judge, I tell you, all these judges, all this shit that Trump's trying to do, most of it's just being blocked by the judges. I wish there was more, but U.S. judge blocks Trump's military transgender ban. So a U.S. federal judge has blocked the enforcement of President Donald Trump's executive order barring transgender people from serving in the country's military. Issued by Trump a week after taking office in January, the order prohibited trans people from enlisting and required the Defense Department to identify and dismiss all service members who have a current diagnosis or history of or exhibit symptoms consistent with gender dysphoria. I didn't know there were symptoms. I guess there is. I don't know how that works. U.S. District Judge Anna Reyes in Washington, D.C. ruled on Tuesday that the ban is soaked in animus, and that's hard to get off, too. You need some of that pumice to kind of scrub that animus off, and violates the Equal Protection Clause due to discriminating based on transgender status and sex. Its language is unabashedly demeaning. Its policy stigmatizes transgender persons as inherently unfit, and its conclusions bear no relation to fact, she wrote in her decision, which is basically Trump on any given day. Reyes, appointed by former U.S. President Joe Biden when he was managed to stay awake for that, has delayed the effect of her preliminary injunction until Friday so that the Justice Department could challenge it at the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit. The government could have crafted a policy that balances the nation's need for a prepared military and Americans' rights to equal protection, and they still can. The military ban, however, is not that policy. The court, therefore, must act to uphold the equal protection rights that the military defends every day, she said. A spokesperson for the Justice Department described Reyes' ruling as the latest example of an activist judge attempting to seize power at the expense of the American people who overwhelmingly voted to elect Trump. The Department of Justice has vigorously defended Trump's executive order actions, including the Defending Women executive order, and will continue to do so, the spokesperson stressed. The lawsuit seeking to block Trump's executive order had been filed by a group of active duty transgender service members and 6 transgender people in the process of enlisting who have claimed that the policy is unconstitutional. A senior U.S. defense official told AP last month that about 4,200 U.S. troops currently serving in the Army, National Guard, and Reserves have been diagnosed with gender dysphoria. So there you go. More bullshit from Trump. That is getting overturned. But that's the thing. A lot of this shit is just going to get gummed up in the courts. And there's not going to be any real progress. None of us figured that was going to happen anyway. But that's his MO, is to do shit. Then he doesn't consider the law on any of it. And then, the majority of the shit gets and it's basically to say, well, Trump needs to appoint more judges so he can do his shit, man. This is an interesting story along our borders here. The big fentanyl crisis that's going on. And there's also an egg crisis, too, if you didn't know that. Well, how those dovetail, you may be axing. Custom agents seized more eggs than fentanyl in the first 2 months of this year. This is according to from Truth Out. And let's read this. U.S. Customs and Border Protection, the CBP, the agency tasked with preventing the transport of unauthorized items across the country's borders, has been conducting more seizures of illegally imported egg and egg-related goods than of fentanyl. The drug president Donald the dumbass Trump frequently cites when enacting his draconian anti-immigration policies. There were 134 fentanyl seizures by CBP agents in January and February, a rate that's nearly 32% lower than the number of seizures that occurred in the same 2 months in 2024. Meanwhile, there were 3,254 seizures of eggs and egg-related products in those 2 months, more than double what was seen a year ago. The data undermines the rationale for Trump's trade wars against Mexico and Canada, where he has imposed or threatened to impose tariffs purportedly based on their inadequate restrictions on drugs flowing into the U.S. Notably, U.S. citizens smuggle drugs, including fentanyl, at far higher rates than non-citizens' entrance to the country. Yeah, because the citizens know how to get it over. The illegal importation of eggs into the U.S. also showcases how Trump has failed to act on lowering consumer costs. His administration has tried to spin those numbers as eggs have become synonymous with the president's promise on the campaign trail to lower consumer prices in general. But while the White House is claiming that costs have gone down since Trump took office, that number reflects lower wholesale prices, the prices that distributors pay to farmers or other middlemen. Consumer costs remain extraordinarily high, likely due to grocery stores deciding to keep prices up and even increasing them in some cases to regain losses in profits over prior weeks. And you've probably seen that in your local grocery store too. And you're like, well, this shit's supposed to be coming down. Why are these prices still high? Kind of like when the price of oil drops, but, gasoline's still fucking high. Despite claiming there have been improvements, the administration has failed to state how exactly Trump has lowered the cost of eggs, and cost adjustments that are being seen are more likely a natural correction than any reaction to Trump's presidential initiatives. Of course, he's going to claim credit for it when it's dropping, and will deny it while it's rising, as would any of these shitheads. During his 2024 campaign, Trump repeatedly promised that once elected, he would immediately lower consumer costs. Groceries, cars, everything. We're going to get the prices down, Trump said, with his, but you couldn't really hear him because he had the Zionist dick in his ass. But after he won the election, he changed his tune considerably, admitting in December that it's hard to bring things down once prices are up. What was I saying before? I'm so crazy. Indeed, the administration has offered very little in terms of solutions for consumers, particularly when it comes to eggs, with Department of Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins recently suggesting that Americans buy chickens to deal with the issue, and Trump himself sharing a social media post telling people to shut up about egg prices. Polling data over the past several weeks shows that Trump has been losing ground with Americans on the issue of the economy, an issue the president has typically polled well on. A recent NBC News poll, for example, shows that 54% of Americans disapprove of Trump's handling of the issue, with 55% also disapproving of his handling of inflation. And here's some shit there. I guess that's it. So, there you go. So, exactly. Exactly. Variant, what's up? Good morning. Trump has been president for 2 months. As of yesterday, the media has been complaining since the first 2 weeks. Absurd, complaining about egg prices. If he talked like that, he would not convince anyone. Hey, Sal, good to see you. Exactly. 200 deaths a day from fentanyl. Yep. What's up, Denver? Good morning, sir. Fentanyl was created by a chemist named Janssen. That name should be familiar. It was the name of the Johnson & Johnson COVID miracle. Indeed. It all ties together somehow. Well, my problem with Trump is saying, I'll bring the prices down. He should know he wasn't going to bring the prices down. He should have known that. Don't say that shit. Don't say dumb shit like that. We talked about this story the other day, as Greenpeace was part of the DAPL Dakota Access Pipeline protest. Now, as of right now, they've lost their lawsuit, as Greenpeace right now must pay $660 million to oil company over the pipeline protests. It says this was a jury in North Dakota, by the way, that ruled on this. That jury has ordered Greenpeace to pay hundreds of millions of dollars in damages in a defamation lawsuit brought by oil pipeline operator Energy Transfer, raising serious free speech concerns. The environmental advocacy group has said it will appeal Wednesday's verdict, which came almost a decade after activists joined a protest led by the Standing Rock Sioux tribe against the Dakota Access Pipeline in one of the largest anti-fossil fuel protests in U.S. history. The jury in North Dakota awarded more than $660 million in damages across 3 Greenpeace entities, citing charges including trespass, nuisance, conspiracy, and deprivation of property access. That's what a protest is, you dumb fucks. Energy Transfer, a Texas-based company worth $64 billion, celebrated the verdict and has denied attempting to stifle speech. We would like to thank the judge and the jury for the incredible amount of time and effort that they dedicated to this trial, the company said as they handed out envelopes full of cash. While we are pleased that Greenpeace will be held accountable for their actions, this win is really up for the people of Mandan and throughout North Dakota who had to live through the daily harassment and disruptions caused by the protesters who are funded and trained by Greenpeace. The 9-person jury in Mandan, North Dakota deliberated for 2 days in the trial, which began in late February, before finding in favor of Energy Transfer on most counts. However, a group of lawyers who monitored the case, calling themselves the Trial Monitoring Committee, said many of the jurors had ties to the fossil fuel industry. What? You're saying that this shit was rigged? No, bro. Most jurors in the case have ties to the oil and gas industry, and some openly admitted they could not be impartial. But the judge said, fuck it, come on in, we need warm bodies. The committee said in a statement following jury selection, of course, paraphrased by me. Greenpeace plans to appeal the verdict. Greenpeace International is also countersuing Energy Transfer in the Netherlands, accusing the company of using nuisance lawsuits to suppress dissent. A hearing in that case is set for July 2nd. The fight against big oil is not over today, said Greenpeace International General Counsel Crispin Casper. We know that the law and the truth are on our side. Energy Transfer's case against Greenpeace dates back to protests in North Dakota almost 10 years ago. In April 2016, the Standing Rock Sioux tribe set up a protest camp along the proposed Dakota Access Pipeline route to stop construction, calling themselves water protectors. You remember all that, then, and Obama shut that shit down. The camp continued for more than a year, drawing support at first from other indigenous people around the country and later from other activists, including environmental organizations like Greenpeace and even hundreds of U.S. Army veterans. I think, what's her name, was out there? Gabby, what's her name? Oh, fuck. You know, Wonder Woman streak in her hair. That, I think she was out there too. Can't think of her name right now. Tulsi Gabbard. I think she had brought some veterans out there. Even as wintry conditions set in and hundreds of police patrolled the protests with waves of violent arrests, which also targeted journalists, the Sioux and their supporters remained in place. According to Energy Transfer's lead lawyer, Trey Cox, closing arguments, Greenpeace's role involved exploiting the Standing Rock Sioux tribe to advance its anti-fossil fuel agenda, according to the North Dakota Monitor. But Greenpeace maintains that it played only a small and peaceful role in the movement, which it says was led by Native Americans. As one Lakota organizer, Nick Tilson, testified during the trial, the idea that Greenpeace organized the protest is paternalistic, according to the Lakota Times. This is them back then. Despite the protest, the pipeline designed to transport fracked crude oil to refineries and on to global markets became operational in 2017. Energy Transfer, however, continued its legal pursuit of Greenpeace, initially seeking $300 million in damages through a federal lawsuit, which was dismissed. Then it shifted its legal strategy to North Dakota state courts, one of the minority of U.S. states without protections against so-called strategic lawsuits against public participation, or the SLAP. I know Kevin over at Black Bear News was talking about this yesterday. Wednesday's verdict is another win for the fossil fuel industry, as Dump promises to open up the U.S. to fossil fuel expansion with his campaign slogan of drill baby drill, including by eliminating air and water protections. He wants to turn this into the Baron Harkonnen's world from Dune, where it's just a black planet and just everybody eats shit and is like 100 pounds overweight. Throughout the years-long legal fight, Energy Transfer's billionaire CEO Kelsey Warren, a major Trump donor, was often candid about his motivations. His primary objective in suing Greenpeace, he said in interviews, was not just financial compensation, but to send a message. Warren went so far as to say that activists should be removed from the gene pool. Ooh, look at that saucy talk. Critics call the case a textbook slap designed to silence dissent and drain financial resources. It comes as the Trump administration is also seeking to instate a wider crackdown on freedom of expression across the country. In a post on Blue Sky responding to Wednesday's verdict, author and journalist Naomi Klein noted that attacks on protests and freedoms affecting different movements, including climate, Palestine, labor, migrant, trans, and reproductive rights, should be seen as related. Fossil fuel companies should be forced to pay the public trillions in damages for the costs of planetary arson. Yeah, I'll say, you know, there's still oil in the Gulf of Mexico, or Gulf of America, whatever you want to call it. Meanwhile, climate change is already contributing to increasingly severe and frequent disasters in the U.S. around the world, including recent fires in California and an unprecedented inland hurricane in North Carolina. Our boy Willie knows about that. The Standing Rock Sioux Tribe filed a new lawsuit last October against the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, which has jurisdiction over a section of the pipeline upstream from the Standing Rock Reservation, arguing that the pipeline is operating illegally and must be shut down, according to the North Dakota Monitor. Okay. So, but they are going to appeal that. I think it was, what's his name? Dozinger, that guy. I think he was talking about that they're going to appeal, and hopefully they're going to win on appeal. We'll see. We'll see. And finally, in our news block, of course, we talk about, you know, the climate is changing, right? Whether it's man-made or not. Climate does change. Look at history. You see how climate drastically changed. It just, we don't seem to feel it because, you know, we're only in a very tiny portion of history, like a teeny tiny portion of history. Humans are, right? You know, we can't remember back to the Ice Age. We only have, like, you know, scientists to tell us that shit, right? But it is happening. The Earth is getting warmer. And there is that giant Thwaites ice sheet down there in Antarctica that's just ready to break off. And the size of Florida. And it's land-based, so it's not like it's in the water already. It's ready to break off and go into the water, which is going to make the seas rise higher, right? So a climate crisis drives record displacements as the planet exceeds 1.5 degrees Celsius. More than 800,000 people were displaced by extreme weather events last year, the highest yearly number since records began in 2008. According to the State of the Global Climate report released by the World Meteorological Organization, the WMO, the report also confirmed 2024 as the hottest year on record. I believe 2023 was the hottest year on record, and then 2024 topped that, with global temperatures exceeding the 1.5 degrees Celsius threshold for the first time. In response, WMO and the global community are intensifying efforts to strengthen early warning systems and climate changes, said WMO Secretary General Celeste Salo. The UN agency aims to ensure everyone in the world is covered by early warning systems by the end of 2027, but progress remains insufficient. We are making progress, but need to go further and need to go faster. Only half of all countries worldwide have adequate early warning systems, Salo said. Hey, Carlos, good to see you. Gabby Tulsi Haggard. Thank you, Carlos. Good to see you. Hope you are well. Wait a minute. We don't like white people in the chat, so hang on a second. Okay, good. It's cold here in Chicago. We need more heat. And it's 49 degrees right now. It's springtime, man. The WMO report documented 151 unprecedented extreme weather events in 2024, meaning they were worse than any previously recorded in their regions. In Mozambique, around 100,000 people were displaced by Cyclone Cheeto, while devastating floods in Valencia, Spain, claimed 224 lives. Wildfires in Canada and the United States forced more than 300,000 people to flee their homes. Heat waves in Japan left hundreds of thousands suffering from heat stroke, while temperatures soared to 49.9 degrees Celsius. In Carnarvon, Western Australia, 49.7 degrees Celsius in the Iranian city of Tabas, and 48.5 degrees Celsius during a nationwide heat wave in Mali. That's hot. The Philippines faced an unprecedented 6 typhoons in under a month, while Vietnam was hit by Super Typhoon Yagi, affecting 3.6 million people. Hurricane Helene became the strongest storm ever recorded to strike Florida's Big Bend region. The clear signs of human-induced climate change reached new heights in 2024, said Salo. Some of these consequences will be irreversible for hundreds, if not thousands, of years. The report's release comes amid growing concerns about climate policy, particularly following the return of U.S. President Donald Trump, a known climate skeptic. His administration has already cut hundreds of scientists from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, that's NOAA, raising concerns over the weakening of global climate monitoring efforts. Trump's reappointment of Neil Jacobs as NOAA's head has sparked controversy. Jacobs was previously censured for misrepresenting a hurricane forecast under political pressure. Despite political uncertainty, Omar Badur, head of WMO's Climate Monitoring and Policy Services, stressed the need for continued international collaboration. We are working together with scientists worldwide, and we hope this will continue despite political differences, Badur said. The report confirmed 2024 is the warmest year in the 175-year observational record, with global mean near-surface temperatures reaching 1.55 Celsius above the 1850 to 1900 average, the first calendar year to exceed the 1.5 Celsius threshold outlined in the Paris Climate Accords. For the first time, the 10 hottest years on record all occurred within the last decade, yet global carbon emissions continue to rise. Oceanographer Karina von Schuckman highlighted concerning acceleration in key global indicators during the report's presentation, including rapid ocean warming and rising sea levels. Glaciers continued to retreat, and Antarctic sea ice reached its second lowest extent ever recorded. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called for urgent action, saying our planet is issuing more distress signals. But this report shows that limiting long-term global temperature rise to 1.5 Celsius is still possible. Not very probable, but yeah, maybe it's possible. I believe in miracles. Where you from? You sexy thing, you. You'd have to believe in miracles. And it's not just the United States, it's other industrial nations too that's pumping out this stuff. It may not be the main cause of the heat rise, but it sure as fuck ain't helping. I mean, if anything, we had free energy over 100 years ago when Nikola Tesla was working on this shit. And because he lacked the funding to go through with it, we're stuck with this bullshit again. Yipper! Are you cold? John, you poor. My God, what happened to you like a couple months ago when it was freezing? I hope you're staying warm, brother. Think warm thoughts at the very least. Say what you will about Turkey. They like to they like to censor people just as much as their Western counterparts. It's delicious during Thanksgiving, but not when it comes to social media posts. Apparently,
The sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
all right, Turkey detains 37 people over social media posts about Istanbul mayor. Apparently, they were calling it Constantinople, and they said, no, bitch, it's Istanbul. They might be giants. So, Turkey has detained 37 people accused of sharing provocative social media posts over the detention of Istanbul Mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu. Imamoglu, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's main political rival, was taken into custody on Wednesday on charges including corruption and aiding a terrorist group, allegations he denies. On Thursday, Interior Minister Ali Yerlikaya said 18.6 million posts were shared on the tweeters about Imamoglu within 24 hours of his detention. He said authorities identified 261 social media accounts that shared provocative posts inciting public hatred or crime. At least 37 of the suspected account users were detained in a police operation, Yerlikaya wrote on the tweeters. Efforts to detain other suspects were continuing. Dozens of prominent figures, including journalists, business people, and Istanbul municipality staff, were also detained on Wednesday, leading to protests. Protesters took to the streets and university campuses in various cities despite a 4-day ban on gatherings imposed at Imamoglu's detention. He's like, hold it, stop, hammer time. As well as the ban on demonstrations, authorities closed several roads and restricted access to some social media platforms. A construction company co-owned by Imamoglu was seized. The Istanbul Chief Public Prosecutor's Office said control of Imamoglu construction, trade, and industry was taken over by a court based on financial crime investigation reports. Imamoglu's Republican People's Party, the CHP, or CHIPS, not the California Highway Patrol, represents the biggest political threat to Erdogan's Justice and Development Party, or AK Party. Imamoglu's detention came just days before he was expected to be nominated as the CHP's presidential candidate in a primary scheduled for Sunday. The party's leader has said the primary will go ahead as planned. CHP Chairman Özgür Özel described Imamoglu's detention as a coup attempt against the next president. In his first public remarks on Imamoglu's detention, Erdogan accused the main opposition party of seeking to cover up its own mistakes and deceive people with theatrics. We have neither the time to waste on pointless debates nor stacks of money to recklessly throw around, he said in an address in Ankara. The Republican People's Party issues are not the country's issues, but the issues of a handful of opportunists in their headquarters, he said. We have no time to waste on the opposition's theatrics. Reporting from Turkey, Al Jazeera's Sinem Kosoglu, a lot of glues in here, said Imamoglu won the mayoral elections in Istanbul twice. He won the last one with a huge margin of around 52%, which doesn't sound like a huge margin, but then you see the other percentages. And it's pretty much how that works. He's now in police custody and being accused of corruption and terrorism charges. According to judicial sources being cited in the media, there is a corruption of around $15 billion, which has been shared through Imamoglu and his entourage through municipality-affiliated companies. Government sources say they will present solid evidence about this, she said. However, Imamoglu's accusation of terrorism charges is an important step. If you are found guilty, you can be replaced by a government-appointed trustee. Many now suspect Imamoglu will now be replaced. Government critics see the detention as an effort to extend Erdogan's more than 2-decade rule following significant losses by the governing party in local elections last year. For their part, government officials reject claims that crackdowns against opposition figures are politically motivated, wink, wink, wink, wink, wink, and insist that the courts operate independently. No political motivation here, folks. Elsewhere on Thursday, Russia said Imamoglu's detention was the sovereign affair of Turkey, while German Chancellor Olaf Scholz said the move was a very bad sign for Europe-Turkey ties. Turkey's next presidential vote is scheduled for 2028, but early elections are possible. Meanwhile, Holocaust survivors denounce UK police for questioning Stefan Kapos. And there he is right there. 40 Holocaust survivors and their descendants have signed a letter denouncing the Metropolitan Police for calling in Stefan Kapos, 87, for questioning about a pro-Palestine protest in London on January 18th. Kapos is a survivor of the Holocaust who was born in Budapest, Hungary in 1937. He has regularly attended marches in solidarity with Palestinians in Gaza since Israel's war on the territory began. Earlier this month, the Met Police handed out letters to a number of prominent activists calling them in for questioning over their alleged roles in the march in late January. They include Campos actor Khalid Abdallah and officers from the Stop the War Coalition, the Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament, and Friends of Al-Aqsa. A protest will take place outside Charing Cross Police Station today at 2 p.m. When Campos is due to be interviewed. I believe that's already happened since that's across the pond there. Police accused protesters on January 18th of breaking through a police cordon between Whitehall and Trafalgar Square. Organizers of the protest 2 months ago have disputed the police account, saying that protesters were invited by officers to filter through to Trafalgar Square. Doesn't that sound familiar? Little January 6th thing. Oh, they stormed the Capitol, and meanwhile the cops are like opening the barricades and saying, "Hey, come on." They've accused officers of heavy-handed and aggressive policing. Any repression of the right to protest is bad enough, but to persecute a Jewish 87-year-old whose Holocaust experiences compel him to speak out against the Gaza genocide is quite appalling, the Holocaust survivors and descendants wrote in a joint letter. This very concerning development makes it even more important for Jews to speak out against the genocide. The signatories include Holocaust survivors Agnes Corey and Jacques Boudet, the latter of whose parents were murdered in Auschwitz. More than 70 people were arrested during the protests 2 months ago, including Chris Nineham, the chief steward of the demonstration. Ben Jamal, the head of the Palestine Solidarity Campaign, the PSC, was also charged with a public order offense. He pleaded not guilty during proceedings last month. MPs Jeremy Corbyn and John McDonnell, the former leader of the opposition and shadow chancellor, were interviewed under caution over their involvement in the protests. The PSC said that a Holocaust survivor is called in by the police for the alleged offense of carrying a bunch of flowers into Trafalgar Square underlines the unjustifiable extremes to which the Metropolitan Police are prepared to go to restrict the right to public protest and silence the Palestine Solidarity Movement. The group accused the Met of a massive overreach of their powers and of misrepresenting the events that took place. 2 years ago, Campos resigned from the Labor Party after being told he would be expelled from the party if he spoke at a Holocaust Memorial Day meeting organized by a left-wing group. Holocaust Memorial Day meeting, and he's a Holocaust survivor. Okay. He had been asked to speak about his experiences as a child survivor of the Holocaust at an event by the Socialist Labor Network. Campos received an email, which Middle East Eye, that's who's reporting this, has seen, from the London Labour Party, warning him that if he spoke at the meeting, he would likely be expelled from the party. In his resignation letter to the party, Campos said Labour's attempt to effectively bar me from speaking about the Holocaust on Holocaust Memorial Day was the last straw for me. That's when he gave him the two fingers and said, "Peace, peace, I'm out, fuck off." He stressed the importance of speaking about his experiences as a Holocaust survivor and accused Labour's current leadership of McCarthyism, a reference to the campaign to smear left-wing people in the United States in the 40s and 50s, which is still going on today. As a child survivor and one of the fewer and fewer still living direct witnesses to the Holocaust, I feel a compelling duty to bear witness and speak out about it at any platform that would invite me and to any audience ready to listen. Right? This guy's been through enough, and he's trying to stop another Holocaust from happening. And what do? These fucking toadies tried to silence him, you know? Meanwhile, here in the U.S., we're trying to fuck over a French scientist with hateful messages. Since Donald Trump returned to the White House in January, his government has cut federal research funding and sought to dismiss hundreds of federal workers pursuing health and climate research. I learned with concern that a French researcher who was heading to a conference near Houston was forbidden from entering U.S. territory before being expelled, Higher Education Minister Philippe Baptiste told AFP on Wednesday. This measure was taken by the U.S. authorities because the researcher's phone contained exchanges with colleagues and friends in which he expressed his political opinion on the policies of the Trump administration on research. Or any criticism of Trump. His skin may be orange, but that skin is very thin. A diplomatic source said a space scientist was stopped at the U.S. border on March 9th, with officials combing through the contents of his work laptop and phone during a random security check. U.S. agents found messages about the treatment of scientists under the new U.S. administration that showed hatred towards Trump and could be qualified as terrorism. We've got a little more terrorism news coming up in a second. Terrorism. They seized his equipment and sent him back to Europe on March 10th, they said. Another source with knowledge of the case said the scientist was accused of owning hateful and conspiratorial messages and was told the FBI would investigate, though they then dropped the case because they knew it was bullshit. Baptiste emphasized the importance of freedom of opinion, free research, and academic freedoms, and said he would defend these as long as they were within the limits of the law. The French Foreign Ministry said that its consular services had been informed of the incident and that the United States was sovereign in deciding who could enter and remain on its territory, but it said it deplored the situation. So, yeah, we don't like it, but, that's their thing. Their fucking prime directive. The U.S. Embassy in Paris redirected an AFP request for comment to the U.S. Customs, but the latter did not immediately reply. According to the ACLU, the U.S. government believes its border agents are entitled to examine the contents of people's electronic devices as part of random security checks. Random. Rights groups, including the ACLU, sued the U.S. government in 2017 over the increasing use of warrantless searches of cell phones and computers at the border, saying they were unconstitutional. Where are my constitutional conservatives at? Why aren't y'all talking about this? According to the ACLU, it won the case in an initial federal court ruling, but it was later overturned on appeal in 2021, prompting it to ask the U.S. Supreme Court to hear the case. Baptiste this month urged French research institutions to consider welcoming students abandoning the U.S. states because of Trump's funding cuts. Meanwhile, Trump moves to deport Indian pro-Palestinian Georgetown University student. Yes, the hits keep coming. An Indian postdoctoral researcher at Georgetown University who has spoken out against Israel's war in Gaza is facing deportation after being detained under U.S. President Trump's immigration bullshit. Badar Khan Suri, give me a story about a thin-skinned piece of shit who doesn't like his Zionist pals being talked about. Badar Khan Suri, a postdoctoral fellow at the Alawid bin Talal Center for Muslim Christian Understanding, that was my old gig, was designated for deportation for spreading Hamas propaganda and promoting anti-Semitism on social media. Tricia McLaughlin, not to be confused with Sarah McLaughlin, in the arms of an angel, an assistant secretary at the Department of Homeland Security said on Wednesday. Suri has close connections to a known or suspected terrorist who is a senior advisor to Hamas, McLaughlin said on the tweeters, wearing her tinfoil hat. The Secretary of State issued a determination on March 15, 2025, that Suri's activities and presence in the United States rendered him deportable under INA Section 23A4C. McLaughlin did not provide evidence, a common theme for all these accusations. No evidence for her claim of ties between Suri and Hamas, the group that governs Gaza. Nermeen Arastu, an associate law professor at CUNY, it's the City University of New York School of Law, who is providing Suri with legal assistance, described the academic as a loving husband and father of young children who cares deeply about human rights, dignity, peace, and safety for all people. Arastu said agents from U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ice, baby, damn, this weather get me all itchy, has arrived at night. They arrived at night. That's how these motherfuckers work, to take Suri to an unknown location before transferring him to an immigration detention center. Yes, your American Gestapo at work. This is every family's worst nightmare, and let's be clear, this happened to him simply because Trump wants to silence anyone he suspects to hold a political opinion contrary to his. Yeah, pretty much. ICE kidnappings are not new. Every week, thousands of families are torn apart as ICE agents detain individuals without cause, often for no reason other than their political beliefs. This is part of a larger pattern of radically motivated attacks on immigrant communities under the Trump administration. Suri is currently being held in an ICE detention facility at Alexandria International Airport in Louisiana, according to ICE's online detention locator. Ahmad Hassan, a lawyer representing Suri, on Wednesday filed a petition for the researcher's release at the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Virginia. According to a court filing, Hassan did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Suri's wife, Mafiz Saleh, confirmed to Al Jazeera that she is a U.S. citizen. She directed further questions to Suri's legal representatives. In a statement to Al Jazeera, a spokesperson for Georgetown University said Suri had been granted a student visa to carry out doctoral research on peace building in Iraq and Afghanistan. My God. You're one of history's greatest monsters. We're not aware of him engaging in any illegal activity, and we have not received a reason for his detention. And then she remembered she was in America and said, oh, yeah, that's right. We support our community members' rights to free and open inquiry, deliberation, and debate. Even if the underlying ideas may be difficult, controversial, or objectionable, we expect the legal system to adjudicate this case fairly. Good luck with that. Twitter account using Suri's name, likeness, and Georgetown University affiliation made a number of criticisms of Israel and expressions of support for the Palestinian cause. In a post in June of last year, I'm assuming, the account accused India of being an enabler of genocide after the Palestinian-run Quds news network posted footage purporting to show the remnants of an Israeli missile labeled Made in India. From being an ally of Palestinians to enabler of a genocide. What a disgrace for Made in India to supply missiles to Israel so that Palestinian children can be butchered, the post said. Change of values for blood money. Shame. Don't see anything wrong with that. With that statement, in an October 2023 post, the account said many Indians supported Israel for the hate of Muslims, not for the love of Israel. Don't know about that, but just because I don't know. Another post that month said that viewing Hamas's October 7, 2023 attacks on Israel as the start of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict ignored history stretching back to 1948 and took away the right to resist by all means which international laws give to Palestinians. Suri's detention comes less than 2 weeks after the DHS arrested Columbia University student Mahmoud Khalil over his involvement in pro-Palestinian protests. On Wednesday, a federal court ruled that Khalil, a permanent U.S. resident, could proceed with a legal challenge against Trump's administration order for his deportation. I think we have something on that, do we? Yeah, we do. That's actually the next story, I think. Or coming up. Judge Jesse Furman ruled, well, we'll get to that in a second here. So this Noam lady, who's the U.S. Attorney General, is calling that Tesla vandalism domestic terrorism. Because Elon Musk is involved and he's, I don't know. If you try to rationalize all this shit, it'll hurt your brain. Oh wait, no, this is somebody else. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi, that chick, wow, said a recent spate of attacks on Tesla property owned by key President Donald Trump's ally Elon Musk was akin to terrorism and vowed to impose severe punishments on perpetrators. The swarm of violent attacks on Tesla property is nothing short of domestic terrorism, Bondi said in a statement Tuesday. Yeah, well, nobody said anything when somebody broke into the Honda dealership. They didn't call that domestic terrorism. That was just a guy trying to steal a Honda. Hey, what's up, Max? Good to see you, brother. Good to see you. She said the Department of Justice has already charged several perpetrators with that in mind, including some cases that involve charges with 5-year mandatory minimum sentences. We will continue investigations that impose severe consequences on those involved in these attacks, including those operating behind the scenes to coordinate and fund these crimes, she said. Musk is one of Trump's closest advisors, as well as top financial donor. See how that works? And is spearheading highly controversial attempts to slash entire U.S. government departments as part of what he calls, he says, is a cost and fraud cutting drive, which we all know is bullshit. Because he hasn't even done anything with military contractors. Tesla share prices have plunged as the brand's image suffers from the fallout, although it was on the rise yesterday. May have been just an adjustment. Bondi's statement came after the latest incident in which a fire started at a Tesla collision center in Las Vegas, damaging 5 vehicles, according to city police. So they terrorized these cars. So they didn't terrorize people, they terrorized cars. As officers arrived, they located several vehicles fully engulfed in flames and the word resist spray painted on the building. That sounds like some liberal shit. The police said in a statement Monday, they didn't say sounds like some liberal shit. I added that. If anybody that puts resist in there, come on. Nobody's going to take you seriously. Musk also shared a video of the Las Vegas torching on his tweeters, calling it domestic terrorism. Tesla just makes electric cars and has done nothing to deserve these evil attacks, he said. I think these cars probably blew up on their own, to be honest with you. Compounding the company's public relation woes, the Vancouver International Auto Show announced it was removing Tesla from the event on the eve of its Wednesday kickoff, citing security concerns. They're probably afraid the car trucks were going to blow up there, too. Politics has absolutely no bearing on the decision, the show's executive director Eric Nickel said late Tuesday. This is purely from a safety point for our guests and attendees. In an interview at the White House late Tuesday, Musk told Fox News he was shocked at the attacks on Tesla vehicles and the hatred and violence from the left. Tesla is a peaceful company. We've never done anything harmful. Several Tesla vehicles, dealerships, and charging stations across the U.S. and Europe have been vandalized in recent weeks. A Tesla charging station in Massachusetts was intentionally set on fire in early March, authorities said, while in Colorado, police said last month they arrested a woman for vandalizing a dealership with incendiary devices. Maybe she was a hot lady herself and just getting near the car made it go boom, boom. Hey, you know, there's some nice chicks out there. Trump expressed support from Musk last week, saying the perpetrators would be caught and will go through hell. Analysts also say Musk's political endeavors, including backing far-right parties in Europe and sharing conspiracy theories online, could badly damage Tesla's traditionally liberal market base. So yeah, there's the thing. You got your people who want the snooty higher ground of I have an electric car. I'm helping the environment when the actual construction of the car itself is harmful to the environment. But they don't think about that. Delicious. Yeah, of course not. Liberals don't support direct action. You know, that was probably just somebody, that was probably some Karen that went crazy and took a Bic lighter to one of those things. I hear they're pretty easy to light up. So we were talking about Mahmoud Khalil. And so he's been given the green light to challenge Trump's deportation efforts. I should have had this. Yeah, I got this out of order, but fuck it. We're here now. A federal court in Manhattan on March 19th rejected a claim by the White House to dismiss Palestinian political prisoner Mahmoud Khalil's legal challenge against his detention and deportation. These are serious allegations and arguments that no doubt warrant careful review by a court of law. The fundamental constitutional principle that all persons in the United States are entitled to due process of law demands no less, Judge Jesse Furman wrote in his ruling, describing Khalil's ordeal as an exceptional case. Furman stressed the need for a thorough legal review to determine whether the White House acted unlawfully or exercised its authority in an arbitrary and discriminatory manner, and said that his previous order barring the government from deporting Khalil must remain in place while the case is under review. He also ruled that the legal case must be transferred to New Jersey, where Khalil was held when the challenge was filed, instead of Louisiana, where he's currently detained at an immigration enforcement facility, or an ICE facility. My name is Mahmoud Khalil, and I am a political prisoner. I'm writing to you from a detention facility in Louisiana, where I wake to cold mornings and spend long days bearing witness to the quiet injustices underway against a great many people precluded from the protections of the law, the Palestinian green card holder said in a public letter issued on Tuesday. There it is right there. My arrest was a direct consequence of exercising my right to free speech as I advocated for a free Palestine and an end to the genocide in Gaza, which resumed in full force Monday night. My unjust detention is indicative of the anti-Palestinian racism that both the Biden and Trump administrations have demonstrated over the past 16 months, he goes on to say. Khalil, a Columbia University graduate student and mediator turned during last year's anti-genocide campus protests, was arrested by Department of Homeland Security agents on Saturday and transferred to 2 different facilities without his family or lawyers being notified. Washington later defended Khalil's transfer to Louisiana, claiming it was due to a lack of detention center beds in New York metro area and a bedbug infestation at a facility in New Jersey. Now, the bedbugs thing I could see, but this sounds kind of like, how the cameras in Jeffrey Epstein's cell didn't work when he, whatever happened to him. His unlawful and unjust detention cannot stand. We will not stop fighting until he's home with us, Khalil's wife, Dr. Noura Abdallah, said following Wednesday's ruling. We're going to keep doing it. These guys take over entire buildings. They've vandalized colleges, negotiating on behalf of people that took over a campus that vandalized buildings. Always with the always that was the vandalizing, that's what these fuckers always put in there. They did that with Black Lives Matter, the protests, and the COVID protests. Negotiating on behalf of people that took over a campus that vandalized building, that's a crime in and of itself, and they're involved in being a negotiator, the spokesperson, the U.S. Secretary Marco Rubio said during a televised interview where he consistently drank water because he's always thirsty for knowledge, apparently. So another lawsuit is challenging Trump's executive orders targeting free speech. Look at this. The American Arab Anti-Discrimination Committee, or the ADC, has filed an historic lawsuit challenging 2 executive orders signed by President Donald Trump, Anadolu News Agency reported. I think that's out of Turkey. Critics argue that the orders target free speech, especially among pro-Palestinian activists in the U.S. The lawsuit aims to prevent the enforcement of these orders, which allow for the deportation or prosecution of individuals based on their political views. See, I told you, once Trump was elected, that's all he's going to do. It's just going to be court case after court case after court case. Just wasting a whole bunch of fucking time. Chris Godshall-Bennett, ADC's legal director, explained that the lawsuit seeks a temporary restraining order and a nationwide injunction to stop the enforcement of the executive orders. These orders, he says, threaten the First Amendment by allowing a punishment for speech critical of the U.S. government or its policies, particularly those to Palestine, Anadolu reported. Godshall-Bennett emphasized that these executive orders are a categorically new threat to activists and individuals who express dissent against U.S. policy of Palestine. The lawsuit is historic because these executive orders include prohibitions on criticizing the government, criticizing American culture, and, of course, targeting dissent regarding U.S. policy towards Palestine, Godshall-Bennett told Anadolu in an interview. He argued that the orders represent an unprecedented attempt to silence speech that is protected under the Constitution. The lawsuit centers on 3 plaintiffs from Cornell University, 2 graduate students, and a professor who claim their constitutionally protected speech is now under threat. They include Mamadou Taal, a PhD student from Gambia, Mukomo Wa Ngugi, a U.S. citizen and professor, and Siram Parasurama, an American citizen and PhD student. Godshall-Bennett explained that these plaintiffs represent the chilling effect these executive orders are having on individuals, creating fear of prosecution or deportation for criticizing U.S. policies or expressing solidarity with Palestinians. Godshall-Bennett further pointed to the recent case of Mahmoud Khalil, as we just told you about that. They said Khalil's arrest, which Trump hailed as the first arrest of many to come, has heightened fears that these executive orders will lead to widespread repression of free speech in the U.S. There's no reason to expect this will be limited to Palestine solidarity activism. The language of the orders is extremely broad, said Godshall-Bennett. He warned that these executive orders represent a direct assault on fundamental constitutional protections and could ultimately affect anyone in the U.S. who criticizes the government or engages in activism. Godshall-Bennett also stressed that the U.S. administration's focus on Palestine solidarity is evident in the second executive order, which uses the pretext of fighting anti-Semitism to target critics of Israel, a time-honored tradition. He explained that the first executive order on national security is similarly being used to suppress dissent, especially around Palestinian rights. This is really an assault on fundamental constitutional principles, he concluded, urging people to recognize that this is not just an attack on a particular group, but on everyone's right to free speech and activism. An article in the Palestine Chronicle today reported on a letter by the detained Palestinian activist Khalil. It was the letter we had just talked about. So he's talking about how he was married to a U.S. citizen, described the moment of his detention by DHS agents. Basically going on just telling you what we told you about with Khalil. So yeah, and finally, this is probably the most no shit Sherlock story of the day. As they polled Republicans and their what they thought about protesting, right? So most Republicans support the right to protest unless it's against Israel. Poll finds. Oh, isn't that precious? Most Republicans support the right to protest unless it's against Israel, according to new polling in the latest Economist YouGov survey. A strong majority of GOP respondents, 73%, said they support Americans' ability to protest against actions they view as unjust. Just 12% said they opposed this, and 14% said they weren't sure. But when asked if it should be legal or illegal to protest against Israeli actions in Gaza, less than half of Republicans, only 42%, said it should be legal. Meanwhile, 23% said this kind of public demonstration should be illegal. It's a protest. And 35% said they were not sure. 35% not sure. You know, these people who defend the Constitution, First Amendment, number one, with a bullet. Sometimes 35% said they weren't sure. The poll conducted March 16th through 18th with 1,618 U.S. adults found support for protests was more consistent among Democrats and independents. 86% of Democrats and 81% of independents said they backed the right to demonstrate against actions perceived as unjust, while less than 20% of both groups said they opposed this or were unsure. When it came to anti-Israel protests, 73% of Democrats said they should be legal, while 5% said they should be outlawed. Probably they're AIPAC paid folks. And 22% said they weren't sure. A majority of independents, 57%, also said they should be legal, while 9% said they should be illegal, and 34% said they didn't know. So a third of these groups are just like, they don't know. Somebody needs to educate these people. The right to protest is enshrined in the First Amendment of the Constitution, which states that no laws shall be made that prohibit the right of the people peaceably to assemble. The poll, which has a margin of error of 3.4 percentage points, also found views on the sympathies of anti-Israel protesters differed greatly by party. A majority of Republicans said they believe all, 13%, most, 25%, or half, 14% of the people who protest against Israeli actions in Gaza support Hamas, which is designated as a terrorist group by the U.S. In contrast, a small fraction of Democrats believe support for Hamas is widespread among anti-Israel demonstrators in the U.S. Just 2% said they believe all of the protesters support Hamas, and 8% said most or all of them do. A slightly larger share of independents, but still a minority, said they believe all, so around 29% of those protesting against Israeli actions support Hamas. The poll comes was taken after immigration ICE agents arrested Mahmoud Khalil, and then we already told you about this, all the information there that you already know. So yeah, I think that's funny. But yeah, and I'm not saying that the Republicans are a monolith. No group is a monolith, but a lot of Republicans are faith-based, right? That they're, are Christians or evangelicals, and they think that what's going on in Israel, that they're eradicating Gaza, the Hamas, because they're doing the Lord's work, protecting Israel. It's it's crazy. CBC voter, what's up? Good to see you, brother. Hope you're doing okay. Go start over on Rumble. Good to see you as well. This is a nice news shirt. Thanks. This is my boy Heisenberg. I am the danger. So that's all your shitty propaganda news that's fit to print. But I felt so bad that we had to have like 3 kickers for the show today. End with some silly stuff. Of course, I can't ignore a story about a gold toilet. UK court finds 2 men guilty over gold toilet theft. There is the shitter in question. You like that sort of thing? British court on Tuesday found 2 men guilty over the theft of a solid gold shitter from an English country house. The fully functioning 18-carat convenience was stolen 5 years ago in a raid on an art exhibition at Blenheim Palace near Oxford. Oh, what a shitty story this is so far. Hey! The artwork, dubbed America, was one of the star attractions of an exhibition by Italian artist Maurizio Catalan at the 18th century stately home, the birthplace of wartime Prime Minister Winston Churchill. We will fight them in the we will fight them in the. Jurors at Oxford Crown Court found Michael Jones guilty of burglary and Frederick Doe guilty of conspiracy to transfer criminal property on Tuesday. Transfer a criminal shitter. Sit the gold toilet. Delicious gold. The court previously heard that the overnight raid on September 14, 2019 took just 5 minutes with sledgehammers left at the scene. Earlier this year, a prosecutor said it was made from gold worth around 2.8 million pounds. That's 3.5 million American at the time, before it was split up into parts that were not recovered. They took a gold toilet to a chop shop. Jones previously said he used the toilet at Blenheim Palace the day before it was taken. Ew! I hope it was number 1, because, a golden shower and a golden toilet is kind of appropriate. But asked what it was like, he said, he told the court it was splendid. Another man, 40-year-old James Sheen, has already pleaded guilty to burglary, conspiracy to transfer criminal property, and 1 count of transferring criminal property. Defendant Bora Gukuk was found not guilty of transferring said shitter. Meanwhile, Finland named happiest country for the 8th consecutive day. Maybe they have gold shitters too. There's video, but there's no audio. I don't understand why there's no audio. Finland, that's where you go for scuba gear. Finland has once again secured its position as the happiest country in the world, marking its 8th consecutive year at the top of the World Happiness Report. The 2025 edition of the report, published on Thursday by the Wellbeing Research Center at the University of Oxford, highlights the Nordic nation's consistent success in fostering happiness among its citizens. The rankings are based on survey responses where people rate their overall life satisfaction. Researchers found that beyond economic prosperity and healthcare, factors such as social support, trust in institutions, and a strong sense of community play a pivotal role in Finland's success. Meanwhile, at the Simpsons Springfield tire fire, Jorni Perhonen, a Helsinki resident, attributes the country's happiness to its calm and peaceful way of life. We are very calm, so we have the time to think about things like live our life really peacefully and I guess easily, if you will, he said. Alexandra Peth, a managing director in Helsinki, emphasizes the importance of trust in Finnish society. People trust each other in Finland. What? We trust each other. And I think on many levels in the society, we try to support each other. Oh, that is so cute. We're trying to tear each other apart over here. So I think the system makes it kind of that you can trust it somehow, she explained. In addition to Finland, other Nordic nations also ranked among the happiest. Denmark, Iceland, and Sweden continue to secure top spots, reinforcing the trend of well-being in Northern Europe. Helsinki resident Aino Virolainen, a digital commerce director who has lived abroad, says she will always return to her native Finland. And the nature, of course. It's clean and the air is fresh. And what's there not to love, she said, highlighting the country's pristine environment and high quality of life. The study, conducted in collaboration with analytics firm Gallup and the UN Sustainable Development Solutions Network, revealed some key global trends. While European countries dominate the top 20, Costa Rica and Mexico have entered the top 10 for the first time, ranking 6th and 10th respectively. Despite its ongoing war with Hamas, Israel secured the 8th spot in the rankings. What? Those people aren't happy. They're delusional. The UK, however, dropped to 23rd place, marking its lowest rankings since 2017. The United States also saw a decline, reaching its lowest position in the history of the report. At the bottom of the rankings, Afghanistan remains the unhappiest country, followed by Sierra Leone and Lebanon. Afghan women in particular reported especially difficult living conditions, according to the study. Researchers found that happiness is strongly linked to seemingly simple factors: sharing meals, having social support, and living in a household of 4 to 5 people. Additionally, we have people living in a household of 4 to 5 people here, but it's because people can't afford the fucking rents. Additionally, believing in the kindness of others significantly influences happiness levels. One striking finding of the study is that people's belief in the likelihood of having their lost wallet returned is a strong predictor of overall happiness. Nordic countries, which consistently rank high in the happiness index, also report high levels of wallet return rates. Not in the UK, where they don't even return toilets. They won't return a toilet at all. What's up, Bella? Good to see you. Good to see you. Maybe, like I said, maybe they have gold toilets there too. Who knows? And finally, in our little fun block here, we have all heard the conspiracy, all the Simpsons predicting the future. They even showed Trump going down his escalator. I think Trump saw that episode and said, you know what, I'm gonna fuck with people. I'm gonna go down the escalator just because it was on the Simpsons. Because I think he was on. I think everybody at some point was on the Simpsons. So a Russian mufti offers Simpson conspiracy theory. No! The people behind The Simpsons use the animated sitcom to program the audience and prepare it for real-life events, a senior Muslim cleric in Russia has claimed. Mufti Anur Burgalin, the chairman of the Spiritual Administration of Muslims in Russia's Muslim-majority Bashkortostan Republic, went viral on Wednesday after an excerpt from his sermon was shared online. During a gathering of Muslims in the regional capital of Ufa, Burgalin said that The Simpsons had predicted actual events such as pandemics. Fans have long joked that during its nearly 40-year run, 40 years, the animated comedy show has predicted many historical events, including the presidency of Donald Trump. Burgalin, however, argued that behind-the-scenes conductors used this show to influence the public. We often hear that The Simpsons are supposedly predicting the future, but let's think about it. Can it be mere coincidences? No, of course not. The cleric told the news website Gazeta.ru, I guess that's a Russian magazine, on Wednesday. These are not predictions, but the deliberate work of specific forces to implement certain concepts via pop culture to test the public's reaction and prepare people for different events, he claimed. Burgalin suggested that movies, TV shows, and memes are being used to program the audience and control how they think. Well, that's not nothing new. That's propaganda. That's just straight up. The Mufti claimed that the plot of the American series Madam Secretary, pulling Madam Secretary out of his ass, This one's fun. Is nearly 90% identical to real-life events in Ukraine. The show, which centered around fictional U.S. Secretary of State Elizabeth McCord, I guess ran from 2015 to 2016. It had a Ukrainian character with the last name Zelensky, which sounds similar to Ukrainian leader of Voldemort, Zelensky, who was elected president in 2019. A coincidence? No, it is a pre-planned scenario. It is not a joke. It is not a cause for laughter, but a serious signal to think about, Berglund stated. Know how a fucking rando CBS show predicted Zelensky, but okay. In 2024, The Simpsons showrunner and executive producer Matt Selman told People magazine, "If you study history and math, it would be literally impossible for us not to predict things." He added that if you say enough things, some of them are going to overlap with reality. And like I said, that show's been on for 40 years, so, you know, I guess it could happen, but Wallet lost his false flag up. Well, you know, you got toilets in England ending up in chop shops, and, you know. Zell, you said your wallet was returned in Tijuana, stolen at the grocery. Wait, what? Your wallet was stolen in Louisiana, but it was returned in Tijuana? That's fun. That's good stuff. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I guess if you, I like that, the Homer. No! Those are good emojis on Rockfin. So Homer just disappearing. That's nice. Yeah. But seriously, there is propaganda laced within all these shows. Particularly in recent years, it's a little more obvious, but wow, that's a crazy story, Zell. But yeah, I mean, there's always been some sort of propaganda interwoven with pop culture and whatnot. You know, it's crazy, but I don't know. I think that is something, you know, we have to keep our eyes on all the time, not just with our little propaganda watch thing, but in all TV shows and movies and stuff. And look for that stuff. You'll find it. It's hard to hide these days. And they're not very smart in trying to hide it anymore either, because they think a lot of people are on board when they're not. So I guess that's it for today. We've done enough damage, 2.5 hours. That's fine. Don't forget, coming up tomorrow, tomorrow's Saturday, right? I believe so. That's when this thing shows up. This guy with the crazy beard that is definitely not red anymore. For the Secret Show, midnight Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific time on YouTube, Rockfin, and Rumble, and Facebook. All your local spots, all conveniently packaged in one shitty show with videos, but it's fun. We have fun with the chat, and you know, we'll have some more like rock trivia and stuff like that. It should be fun. It's gonna be tomorrow night. This show will be back next Tuesday, I believe, at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Mountain, and 8 a.m. Pacific time. Evil Redhead. The hell? Yipper, if I can get this thing to fucking work. Our freckles are the souls of people that we capture. So you don't fuck with us, man. Redheads, man, we're crazy. Yeah, so we'll be back to Tuesday for this show. If you can, if you want to donate to the show, I got all the links down below and along the crawl here, as you can see. If you can't donate, if you want to share the information out, that would be appreciated. You know, the whole like, share, and subscribe thing. We've got a few subscribers over the last week or so, and that's pretty cool. You know, like I said, it's there's like some people say, "Why come you don't have more subscribers and stuff?" Well, we don't do like a lot of the we don't really do the clickbaity type stuff that kind of attracts those kind, and we really don't want We want drama people here. We want people who want to get this information, absorb it, pass it on to others. And we can talk about, if you're not too fond of the people reporting it, that's fine too. No journalist is perfect. And there's definitely those with agenda. So we try to weed through the agenda parts and try to get to the meat of these stories and tell you what's going on. So hopefully you're enjoying that, or at least are taking it in and using it and maybe passing that knowledge on to other people. Don't forget our buddy Kevin. I think in about an hour and a half, he's going to be on Substack, Black Bear News at 2 p.m. Central, so that's 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific time. Check him out. I'm going to be getting ready for the secret show tomorrow. Hopefully you guys will come out, enjoy that, and it should be a fun time. If I was a little testy today, I'm sorry. It's just a little bit, kind of didn't get much sleep, and I'm a little so if I snapped at you, I apologize. But don't say dumb shit to me. I'm not saying you did, but that's usually a way of kind of getting over it. All right, I'm rambling. I'll see you tomorrow night. Peace!
This is City Alpha 5! Woo!
Soon.
Gold ass shitter. Woo!